Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Welcome to RGV Aerial Photography's deep dive into images he captured this week around the shipyard and launch site in Boca Chica, Texas. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Starbase Weekly. This is episode 24. My name is Mauricio, and today we have Indian Star. Go ahead, Indian Star.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Indian Star. We're here. We're excited. We have great photos to show you guys. Thomas is going to be leading our conversation, so we're excited for that. And hopefully we'll get a chance or a sighting of GB sometime soon. Thomas, why don't you go ahead and take it?
Hello, everybody. This is Thomas. So welcome again to another Starbase Weekly. First off, we've got Sunny. Everybody loves Sunny, don't you? Oh, such a cute dog. So, Mauricio, kind of explain what's going on this week as far as Sunny and everything else going on real quick.
Well, Sunny's growing up. He's already, I lose track, but they grow up so fast. You mentioned that you have a golden retriever as well. So,
yeah, Jackson, he's 5 months and 60 pounds now. He is huge.
Yeah, they grow up really fast, especially at this rate, at this age. But aside from that, I took him along just to keep me some company, and took advantage and documented his. I guess I'm gonna be documenting him growing up around Starbase, more than anything, and I'll be sharing that with you all. But yes, today we're reviewing the photos, ground images that I took yesterday. Unfortunately, the flyover is still delayed, but we're planning on doing that one tomorrow. So if you're members or your Patreon members or YouTube members, just be on the lookout for that, considering there's no more delays. But aside from that, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. So first off, we can probably start where Sunny's at. He's at the front of the sign, the Starbase sign at Sanchez. So let's go ahead and begin there. So of course we got Sunny at Sanchez again, but this is the Rocket Garden. Great view from Sunny. He's just looking like he's having a grand old time.
This one actually shows how big Sunny's getting. I mean, from that first photo you showed us of Sunny to look at how tall he is already. He's going to be a big
I think
puppy.
his name is it should be Clifford. I mean, he's almost 40 meters here. I mean, wow, he's growing.
What are you feeding the dog?
Maybe a little bit of methalox or something. I don't know. That's a fairly large dock. I love that picture. That's awesome.
It's a good photo.
Stuff. You have some really great pictures of the rocket garden here. Where are you located when you were taking this, Mauricio?
This is the mudflats, which would be the north side of the build site. And this particular time, I went out there, but I didn't know that it was high tide, so I got. Luckily, I had the boots, which was purchased from the boot fund a while back. I think that was back in episode 1 or 2, and that really helped out a lot.
There's quite a bit of water there. I'm just looking at this, and you're trudging through that, and it's pretty, well, at least ankle deep with the boots.
It's about, I would say about, ankle deep, a little bit higher than that.
There's actually a video of him walking through the mud flats under, like, his feet are in the water. His shoes are boots.
Mind if I grab that one, Mauricio?
Oh yeah, sure, go for it.
That one's good demonstration of what's going on here. So it'll take me a second here because I think
it's just from the rain, right? That water flow.
Actually, I think it was just high tide. So I don't think it was the rain. There was a lot of puddles out there in the leading up to the mudflats, but that was definitely from the rain from last week or the week before, and along with that, you get the mosquitoes. So that was pretty bad out there.
Yeah, you can see Chief walking past the Lab Padre camera, and he's always smacking his arms and his shirt. I'm assuming for mosquitoes.
Yeah, there's just a lot of water. I've been through there before, but not with this much water. It's only been, the layer of water basically just makes it mud, and you have to try to find the dry spots and stay on those. Otherwise, you really sink in. So I bet you were exhausted after this.
Oh yeah, I didn't last out there. I was probably out there for maybe about, at the most, 15, 20 minutes. So I got my shots and headed back to my truck.
Another good view of the back of the starships here, and it's actually kind of useful to look at the starships just as a side-by-side comparison of what's changed over time. Obviously, we've got 15 here, 22, and 20. So there's more tiles, at least on this side, because this is the basically the windward side, and this is the leeward side. But it's kind of cool to see both at the same time. Where this is the first Starship to land successfully and stay successfully landed, unlike 10, which had to have another hop there at the very end, another 150 meters.
None of these have the new, thinner, shapelier nose cone, right?
No, they don't.
Smooth nose cone.
This is all the old style.
Yep.
So these are still stretch formed, but instead of it being like basically 4 pieces, so this is one piece here, another piece here, and here, it's basically from this point down to here, it's all one contiguous panel. So you don't have as many welds, you don't have to have as much labor go into it, but it does require a bit more of an expensive jig to weld that all together. They have that in 10.3. But we were looking at this and trying to understand like some of those processes yesterday as well during one of our rocket talks in lab server, that the entire system itself, you have these stretch form panels that's going to be one piece, and how you move that around it's a really complicated process, and the Star Factory doesn't feel like it has the enough height and headroom to basically lift it over the jig that is essentially the same height from here to here. So that might be an issue, that they have to use a larger building that will be attached to Star Factory. It'll be kind of interesting to see how many levels and tiers that this building will actually have, and I've heard that it goes all the way to the road.
We're talking about Star Factory?
Yeah, Star Factory, but
yeah,
we'll get to that again here in just a bit.
Before you get too far, we're already getting donations because people are so generous. We got a $20 donation from 55 Chevy Guy, who says he's donating for Sunny's biscuits and a few drops of plane fuel. And then Jim Cabot also, $5 for Sunny treats. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jim, and Sonny definitely will love those those treats. My dog, he loves milk bones. You should definitely get milk bones for your dog if you haven't ever given them to the dogs. They love them. Almost addicted, I think. So actually, this is something I think I've talked with you about, Mauricio, that I kind of looking at that, and it's not looking really good. They do need to go through and clean that area up here. Kind of unfortunate it looks like that. It looks like it's mostly from the wrapping from the stainless steels. These look like the brand new ones that are coming in, but some of that's coming off here, and that's not a great thing to see. But I think this is their property up to about this little stake line right here.
And then the for sale sign.
Oh, the for sale sign. I don't see a for sale sign here. There's one on the front side though. So this is actually showing something pretty nice right here. Is that they have removed the old system, and it looks like they have things almost hooked up for the current nitrogen tank. So it's a dry nitrogen. It's just nitrogen gas that will be pressurizing the vehicles down here. And so far, I don't actually see the lines going to it, but I do see that these lines are sitting here, and I do not see the compressor or other pumps hooked up to the vehicle. So right now, I think it's just sitting there unpressurized, unless I'm missing. Actually, it could be right here. The lines are just going on.
Of the compressor, you're saying?
Okay, so there they are. Yeah, without the compressor. It's just sneaking in through this way. And this might be a second line for something else over here to the right. So they might have another vehicle be able to sit back in that area, because they do actually have quite a bit of room over there.
We are.
Oh, it looks like we got another one.
To get
Another
donations.
two.
I was just going to say that too. Thank you, Sharpie, for your $4.99 donation. And he says more airtime for the plane trip. And John Topker, thank you so much. $10. Don't forget the skeeter spray. Pet friendly, of course. Of course. Although Thomas can't do skeeter spray. Thomas just needs to be eaten alive.
Oh no, I have to do the mosquito spray. I did tons of mosquito spray when I was down there, but I didn't really get many bites, which is good. But it's just like
that would mean the skeeter spray was working.
Yeah, but Mauricio, how bad was it when you were down there last night?
It was pretty bad, especially leading up to the mudflats. There wasn't that many mosquitoes out there at the mudflats. It was mainly where the bushes are at, like the path you take to get there. But yeah, and consider I'm carrying the camera and all that, it was pretty bad.
I know that here mosquitoes just love to attack you by just doing a kamikaze attack and just grabbing right onto you. Are they pretty vicious down there too?
Well, yeah. But one thing to notice is that these mosquitoes are actually pretty weird. They're huge. They almost seem like the size of a bee. I don't know. Maybe I'm over exaggerating.
But they're pretty big. The size
some of them.
Bee? I'm not coming to Starbase if that's the case.
Well, I guess if we measure from like the leg all the way to the legs are pretty long, so they lift off.
They're like that. That's what they are. They're long-legged.
Yeah.
So they can suck your blood. Anyways.
Yeah, so I was just trying to see if I could find a nice aerial shot from last week. So I'm going to go through and grab some of those, or if somebody else wants to grab those while we're going through, just to say, where we're at, where we're looking, that kind of stuff. Because we do have a lot of those aerial shots still available from last week. We weren't really able to go through a lot of that, but we can use them. Anyways, so this is one of that tank that we were talking about before here, that is for basically nitrogen. So they put in liquid nitrogen in here. And this is basically insulated, so you now have a good, basically cryo tank just to gasify the rest of the system. You have the air gas vaporizer over here, so it takes the heat in the atmosphere and takes that liquid nitrogen and turns it into a nice warm gas. We've expanded it about 700 times from its volume over here, and that way you can keep these entire systems pressurized without using the air compressors. This guy over here is meant to keep the water out of the vehicles, because if you just put in compressed air directly, you will have the issue that you're now putting moisture into the vehicle and it's going to accumulate, settle at the bottom, And if you ever get a mosquito inside, you'll have a lot of mosquitoes. But yeah, it's basically dry nitrogen is what they would call it for using this tank to the vaporizer here. But yeah, it's nice to be able to see that they are moving along from these, so they don't have to use these. They don't have to rent these as much. They just need a tanker truck every once in a while. Come over here, hook up to this guy, fill it up to here, and they'll be done. Now I have to do that probably once a year, maybe once every 6 months, depending on how many more vehicles they have down there. So this is the entrance, by the way, to the Sanchez site. It's like, I think it's number 3. So it's like A3. But it's the Remedios at the very end. So this is as close as you can get. It's a public road. I don't know how long that road will stay public, but just keep in mind that you do not cross the fence line. We did have a person go to High Bay the other day on Wednesday. That was crazy.
So crazy.
Yeah. It's just like, what? Is this real? And it was.
Right? Yeah, we don't need people going on their location on campus, uninvited, hiding or sneaking into the bays or anything like that, into the towers. We don't need any of that. Nobody needs to do that.
You know the best way to get on the site is? Submit a resume.
Get an interview. That's the best way to get there.
Yeah, submit a resume, get an interview. And if you're in the industry already or something close enough, something. So,
or you could volunteer to be Mauricio's Sherpa.
So we do have another, little bit of details changing on this ring. Not much. It's just that is all it is. It looks like either you've got a can of spray paint or a like some sort of hydraulic jack or something over to the side of it. That's the only new element that has changed on this ring. It is still kind of a big question mark on exactly what this is going to be for. I every time I look at this, I can always say it's something with Starship's booster because it has the 20 triangles, and that is the only thing that has 20 is the outer Raptors for the booster. But that's all I can figure out on this guy. It might be that it was supposed to get used for something else, and it won't. But they still, like with this guy, are making some sort of change. So let's see what else we have.
And while you're looking, we continue to get donations from our very generous crowd. Samsung 0804 donated $5 and says when he is able or she is able to visit Boca, they'll be going to the nearest pet store and loading up on dog treats for Sunny. That's a promise. A handful of treats for now. And then Cranky Old Man, another $5 donation saying, Mauricio, gas for you and treats for Sunny. Keep up the excellent work. Rocket Profit, $10. He says he'll match for Skeeter Spray and Sunny's Biscuits, and he's asking anybody else to join him. And in comes Jack Strix with a €5 donation, saying Sunny needs a toy. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. You know what this feels is 2 flyovers next week, hopefully.
My Jackson walked out of the room when he heard that. I think he's feeling jealous. Sunny's getting all the attention there, but I don't post pictures of my Jackson. Well, not yet, anyways. I've been encouraged to. But I will give you another picture of Sunny here. Just another sneak peek. There's Sunny. Oh, he looks so much like he's in charge of this place right now.
He is dominating. Jim Cabot also donated $10 and says, here. Thank you, Jim Cabot. Mauricio, question for you. Sunny, S-U-N-N-Y or S-O-N-N-Y?
S-U-N-N-Y.
Oh, my bad.
Does he often pose like this, by the way, Mauricio?
What was that?
Does Sunny just pose like this all the time?
I don't know what he was doing at that point. His leg was...
It was probably hot. Whatever he was standing
I think I need to go to the bathroom is almost what he wants to say, but it's also this pose of like he's just standing there and he's just kind of moving around, and it might be that the top of looks like your cab might be warm.
Yeah. I like it was all right. Away from you. Sorry.
The hood was warm. The hood was warm, so I didn't put him on there. But But yeah, he keeps hydrated. I keep him hydrated. He eats a lot when we're out there, and we even go to the beach sometimes to walk the beach just for a little bit. And yeah, he's a good companion when I'm out there.
He just looks so happy. Look at that
Did you say he
face.
goes in the water or he doesn't go in the water when you go to the beach?
He he's gone in the water, but very like Thomas said. I guess it has to be one of those things where I have to be in the water with him. But I guess he's afraid of. At this point, he's kind of just spooked by the fact that the water moves in and out. So there's that. He hasn't really seen that. We have a kiddie pool at home, and he gets in that all the time. Every time that we let him out to play, so he likes the water.
That's awesome. What's funny is your audience also enjoys all of this conversation. And Samsung0804 donated another $5 and says, I think RGV doggo photography is going to end up being the more profitable than RGV aerial if the current trend continues. So you might be onto something, Mauricio. We got double streams here.
Twice is good. We'll move on to from the doggos. Oh, I love the doggos. So the top hat of the Can Crusher, they still have it just kind of sitting here with the new tank. This is a tank size that would be for I guess you could call it a booster header tank from like Series 4 and I'm sorry, or like 5 and what could have been 6. But this is not the booster header tank. So what they've set up here is a water tank. So this is specifically for the Can Crusher. It's for basically replacing air from the tank that will be below it when they do a can crushing test. And remember, the Can Crusher, it's that device over at the launch site. And this is just the other side of that. It's meant for test tanks. We might get to see it here pretty soon. So in action with everything. They've kind of put this all together as if they are ready to roll out and use it again on the build site, the launch site, I mean. And I think that's going to be maybe with eDome. So that'll be fun if they actually do get a nice can crush test out of that, which maybe they don't actually do it with that one, but they've got this ready to do something. And that's the only test tank that we have available. But anyways, it's just one of those cool little details.
And this is what we call the top, right? The top hat. Or that was.
Yeah, this would be the top hat, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like the English gentleman's top hat. I just had to come up with a name for it. This was ages ago, back in May last year. So Can Crusher is the name that I came up with because it's like the puck shucker. You don't want to shuck the puck like shucking corn. You don't want to have the puck be, shucked like corn. Same thing with the Can Crusher. You don't want to crush the can. It's what it does when it kind of fails. Or if you're trying to fail it. But anyways, it's one of those nice little test articles and jigs that they've got for doing whole tests like that. That was basically do everything through launch, through max Q. That's the Can Crusher's test regime.
Nice.
Oh, poor Ship 16.
Not poor. It's being dust to dust and all that stuff,
Yeah. Life cycle's kind of ended, so yeah. But it's just they went through and cut this in a very odd manner. It's instead of just going straight across, it just kind of goes down and then up here. Maybe they
it's called freehand.
They freehanded it up to here. Then I think maybe they just I got it cut to here and then I forgot to cut the rest, and this might be what happens. So it continues to here and then it goes up here. It's like there's something kind of jaggedy there about the cut. Either that or they just kind of missed a spot here and there.
Maybe. You never know. And we continue to get donations from this very, very, very generous crowd. I was about to say 10 rupees. 10 pounds from Shard Baby. More doggo treats, doggy toys, and bones for Sunny. And then Mule Skinner, $19.99 donation. James Wilson, $10 donation for Skeeter Spray. He's on the Skeeter Spray train. There we go. Thank you, gents, so much. We appreciate it. Mauricio, I don't know, 2 flyovers, maybe 3 with all these donations? I'm greedy. Don't mind me.
Oh no, we were talking about that earlier. That so tomorrow is a planned flyover at 8 a.m. and hopefully we get to squeeze in another one on Thursday or Friday, so we can have a fresh flyover for the Saturday stream as well. So just be on the lookout for that.
Is this a valve and or just some pipes and valves on this Booster 2.1 article? I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at. It looks almost like the Prime Mantis 2.0. It's just odd. It just kind of stuck out to me that looks like that. So this is the one that they tested on December 18th, and this is what happened. We've gone over this probably half dozen times already, but it's worth going over again. So they went through right here and kind of right through there. I'm sorry, right there is where the basically crushing happened on the test article. Normally you don't have a piece like this, but I suspect that they put this here intentionally to make it happen right here if it was going to happen, because the dome, and that's typically what you want to do when you want to basically get the stress going over it, and so this no longer fits or matches what they currently have. And it sounds like they will be looking at scrapping these test articles soon, unless they've got other
Thomas, do you have
testing.
something running in the background? Because you keep cutting out. You're coming in and out. And I only ask because I know Thomas really, really well. And he tends to have things running in the background. But yeah. These are cool. Sorry.
And it took up 10% of my CPU for some reason.
What was it? Actually, don't tell me.
Windows settings, like just the settings app is using up a good portion of my CPU. It's using up whatever's left.
All I know is we wouldn't have a stream or a Rocket Talk if you didn't have something running in the background. That's what I know to be true. Just saying.
Oh, this was the booster test article 2.2.
I thought it was 7.1. It's the second version of 7.1, is it not? Oh, that's 6 according to Jaxie.
It's parts of 6, but it's like it's another test article, so it gets another 2 or something like that. Or if you want to call it 6.1, but it's all over the place with this test article.
Apparently, it's just purely B6, my friend.
Just B6. Mm-hmm. Well, it's B6 plus B6 in a very odd configuration. So this is always something we try to see if there's anything new with. Nothing yet. This is intended to go from a booster mount up here for 20 connections. So you can see that's where this connects down to the test stand. But this is kind of old news. The test stands will no longer fit this adapter type. So they'd have to go through and change this out as well to make it conform to the new standard for Starships. So Starships, everything from 22 technically, 24 and above have all switched over to the new standard for how they connect to the booster and how they connect to the test stand. Oh wow!
Oh, that's a nice photo. We've never seen it from this side, have we?
Yeah, this is showing the other side of the Starbase sign basically, and this is the dirt that they've been working on. Most recently, that was the area we were looking at last week at Sanchez that you could see from above that it's pretty large dirt pile there.
Yep. And pipes.
Yeah.
Stabilis trucks for the methane.
Yeah. So these are meant for, I believe, just the generators. So they've hooked them up over here, though, and you can see that they've got the pumps as well being used, it looks like, or they're just stacked really well. Because we saw those sitting over there, thought, oh, maybe it's just for storage, but why there of all places? Oh, yeah, the culverts here, too. You can see that they've got all the culverts, as you mentioned before. They've got it all stacked up and ready to basically put together so that they can do water mitigation here as well.
And by put together, do you mean dug in a hole and buried in a trench?
Yeah. So trench it and then bury it. This is pretty much are very close to being what's called virgin soil. There's still some lines and power lines, I believe, just to the right of all of this. And then, of course, you've got the old oil wells in this area right here. So you can see where they have this set up. It's just over to the left is where the old oil wells are. See if I can grab the flyover from last Saturday. So only 7 days ago.
We'll grab it. Why don't you keep going, my friend?
Okay. All right, so this is looking down Remedios from Highway 4. To the right, we've got that A-frame building, and we have High Bay and Mega Bay off to the right with all those Airstreams and the trailer park and everything else there. But yeah, this is the good establishing shot. I should have used this first, but it works. There's not much new on that one. But yeah, you can see that dirt again. It's getting really dusty here, and you can actually see they've got all of the culverts that they pulled up that were there to begin with. That looks like it's just been mangled.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it does. Holy cow.
Yeah, so no longer it's being used. They pulled it
Wow.
out. They've put something else in its place.
So those have only been there for like a year and a half, maybe, right? Max. Because we saw them being buried. So in that very short period of time, that much damage has occurred to that cement culvert?
Well, this all probably happened in the last 2 weeks. For the damage, like they have a hole here that they use to basically connect the pipes to these basically man access points, where you have like a grate or something on top as well. But this is a collection point, and you can actually go down into it and help clean it out or those kinds of things. But the major point is that they pulled it out and it destroys it when they do that. So they weren't really careful with it. They don't want to use it anymore, so it gets pulled out and destroyed.
Sorry. It wasn't that it was buried in the ground and all this destruction happened. It was just the action of pulling it out of the ground that caused that. Is what you're saying?
You can see all the scratch marks all over the place here.
Mm-hmm.
So the LOX generation facility are LOX and nitrogen. So these are currently just nitrogen, and I hopefully will see liquid oxygen as well generated from this facility. So they have 3 tanks. This one is yet to be labeled over here, and then they've got this one's compressed nitrogen, and this should be gas. So they've got compressed nitrogen gas that they'll collect as well. That's useful for all sorts of things.
Do they recollect the helium as well, or no?
Technically, that could be for the smallest tank where all the contaminants would be. So like helium, argon, just all of the trace elements. You could stick them all into something else and then go to use those later. So if you want to have a truck come pick it up, that might be what this was for. But seeing that it has a air gas vaporizer right here, it might be just we use this for compressed nitrogen gas. So this is just the one that we use to run a bunch of other pneumatic systems at the facility. I have to look at the plumbing directly, and I'm not going to be allowed back there. So closest I've actually been is looking at the lot here would probably be about here, because the property owner didn't have any lease agreements or anything like that. They owned the property outright, and I was allowed at the property on his property, not the SpaceX side. But security was right there watching the whole time. I'm like waving to them, and they're waving back. Just give me a kind of a glare like, oh, come on, I got better things to do than watch a photographer. So I got out of there, after I got some pictures of the site, just kind of panoramas and that kind of stuff to just look and enjoy the site. Yeah, so there's a lot more culverts in here. They're planning on a lot of water mitigation on the Sanchez site. They raise up the terrain for something like this to put a building on. In order to be within code, you need to raise it above the floodplain. So this is one of the reasons why you build it up like this, is to be above the floodplain. And there's certain number of years and decades that you have to be above. So it's like above a 25-year flood or something like that, especially for a more permanent structure. Looks like all of the power generators are still going, so they're constantly generating the power here. So it's like between 12 and 13 megawatts of their own power. So they use methane, liquefied methane, and then it gets distributed through that system. And Golden Boy's talked about this often over there. Got a potable water truck, and looks like a construction van. So all the construction workers are coming in with the van at once. I've seen some other things like that. So we've got the black buses that I call the party bus. Just means that they've got workers being transported from one part of the site to the other. When we have a static fire, we'll often have what I call that party bus go over to the roadblock because workers want to go over there and watch the festivities. And then they'll get transported back to the work site or other areas
Speaking of
as needed.
festivities, did you see the fireworks last night?
No, I didn't. It's like a weekly fireworks display at South Padre Island, right?
I believe so. That's what Dave was saying. They were lovely.
Okay.
I think I have the flyover picture you're looking for. At least of
Awesome.
Sanchez. I think. Maybe not.
Yeah. So I could pull that up. Yeah, so that's that generator we're looking at again. That generates the 12 to 13 megawatts. And this is the basically the chillers. So they will take the exhaust and cool it off using this system over here. So you're not just pumping out hot gas. Then these right here in particular are scrubbers. So they basically go through and remove any contaminants that are coming out, like sulfur or other things that you don't want to be able to be released in the atmosphere. But yeah, so we were looking off to the far left towards the road.
Got it.
This direction. Basically, it's still on Remedios. So yeah, this is Remedios, and then Highway 4 is just to the left. This is that area where it's like ITAR and stuff you don't want anywhere near anything else, so hazardous materials, things that could ignite. But this is part, I believe, of their hurricane mitigation plan. So some of these materials they do want to be able to have away from their facilities in case there's a flood or a hurricane, that they basically have to first protect their employees. But if there's time, they would be able to move some of that material if necessary. So it's like you see a hurricane coming in, looks to be really strong. You could move those materials to a more secure facility. At least that was one of the requests, and it looked like they were talking about that as well. And this is early planning stages that they were really talking about the stuff.
For sale.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
that for sale sign. Let's see. Yeah, they've got a lot of scaffolding stills here that's been before. They were using the scaffolding material, I think, on Mega Bay. So I think this is kind of just one of their storage sites for that scaffolding material.
Yeah, and
And
also
then you
to
could
fix
see
the transfer tube in B7.
all sorts of things, yeah. But this one I think is intended just for the work site near here. It could be the same company for scaffolding, but you have a lot of different scaffolding projects going on here. So these guys are pretty accustomed to using that same like scaffolding. Like they know what they're doing. They do it day in and day out. Other times they do hire people to fill in, but they go through and double check a lot of that.
Yeah, Max was
But
saying this scaffolding in particular came out of the stand that had the adapter on it for the booster.
oh, nice. Yeah, I can also see those cleanouts, concrete cleanouts here. So Booster 7's, you said that the adapter, or it's just not Booster 7, a booster came out with the scaffolding here. I wonder which booster that would be.
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out in a moment.
So he's saying
Oh,
the
the
stand in the photo, yeah, behind the scaffolding.
oh, okay. So it came with this guy, is what I think he's saying.
Mhm.
All right. So this is actually mentioning this. This is an interesting one. This, well, back forever ago, we speculated that this was the original booster transport stand, and everything I can say looks like it is or was intended to be a booster transport stand. They didn't like the design. They didn't like how much it costs to build the thing. And so they changed things very quickly to the current booster transport stands. So going from this very large structure, and then there's additional elements to it that is missing. So there's this little trapezoid piece that comes off here. That those I think are over maybe either another part of Sanchez or over at the Massey's gun range. That they really don't use this for much more than just a jig.
Yeah, those parts you're referring to are at Massey's.
Yeah.
Macy's? Massey's?
Yeah, I can never remember which one how it's.
I like Massey's.
Yeah.
It's not
but yeah, so this design is meant for like a lot more than it actually is getting used for. So you've got all these other elements. They've used this to build jigs as a jig to build other elements. For instance, this tiered element, so you can go from the, as I mentioned before, Starship mount to a booster mount. But yeah, going through and having a system to build off of or even test with. So they had a nose cone back in April of last year. I got to watch the testing right there. It was just pulling down on the nose cone, and this system was the part that went with that. That was the base structure.
And mind you, if he says he got to watch it, he means he stopped the testing because he was too close. They asked him to move.
No, this was different testing.
But it was
same
still,
day.
Yeah.
They were doing parallel testing back then too. That was one of the rare occasions that they did parallel testing. Now it's kind of a lot more common, and we're going to see parallel testing happening not just once or twice a year. It's going to be like 4, 5, 6 times a year, or maybe even a lot more than that. So that's one of those nice elements to be part of that little history, to see 15 fly, to see the testing of the nose cone the previous day, and anyways, I was going to mention that the structure as the stand is right here is a lot larger as far as how it's built and how complicated it is and how expensive it is than the stand that they've got for here. This is going to be Booster 8's transport stand. So Booster 8, they moved this stand out last night, I believe. So Mauricio got here during the day. It was all ready to go, and it moved during the night at around, I think it was like 8, 9, 10 p.m., somewhere in there. So it's no longer at Sanchez, but it's just a beautiful piece of engineering. It's a lot more adaptable than the old system that we're just looking at here.
And Thomas
So they've
Sharkey
got
has a question. He asks, how many stands did they make so far? And I already know the answer. Do you know the answer?
This is be currently the 4th.
Yes. And do you know how many are in progress?
They've got a 5th and maybe a 6th. I saw another element because we had 4 pieces, because these come in pairs of 4, and there was another one just sitting there next to all of that. So we have basically a 5th and a 6th in progress right now. So they're moving very quickly on these transport stands, because they're going to be testing a booster after booster, possibly boosters blowing up
Excuse you.
on splashdown.
On splashdown. Good save. Good save.
Well, they're going to be throwing away the boosters regardless.
Stop it. It's called reusable rockets. Reusable.
Well, they're not reusable yet.
All right.
They're disposable until they're reusable, and they're learning the reusability part. For catching, they have to understand how it's going to be caught on the chopsticks, all of those things. So
Yep, we should get to those parts.
the chopsticks, we want to jump right to it.
No, I mean we can keep going. Just I can't wait till we get to the chopsticks. Is all. Launch site's always the best.
Oh, they're all good. That's always my problem. is going between the different elements here. But I will.
How's that?
I'll move things along.
On I think it's wide bay. Excuse me.
Mega Bay now. It's got so many different names.
High bay too.
So the high bay roof is coming along. There's elements have been installed for the panels of the roof. So I thought it would be done by now, but as far as the progress bar goes, that it stops and starts. It doesn't continuously go. It's like a Windows installation or something.
Oh my gosh. But better, because it'll protect its components far more safely.
Less crashing.
Sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah, but it's nice to be able to see that they've got the roof being built. You can see back over here they've left this side where the elevator goes up. They don't have the panels in, but they have been starting the siding, as you can see right here. So
That's
the siding is occurring. And they've got a lot of the scaffolding up because they are ready or getting ready to install the elements that will be the part that the windows attach to directly. And I don't know if it's going to be a window system where it's like a thin little line between here and here, so it's 4 panels, or is it going to be one giant panel? Whatever it is, it's going to be.
It'll be one giant window, just like high bay.
Oh, a giant window like that would be so expensive.
But
it would be amazing.
Can you imagine
but
the view?
wow.
And I don't know that money is really an object per se.
It's 6 of one and half a dozen of another, but it's still just like it's going to be a lot of window, regardless. It's going to be awesome. So they've been doing a bit of scaffolding. I was expecting that they would leave this part undone so that they could take the scaffolding going all the way up and using that to get as like stairs or something, because that's basically what these are.
But why would they go to a sealed area?
Well, I don't know about that part. You expect them to do one thing and then they do something else. So just remember it's SpaceX.
Listen, my day is made because Max Q agrees with me. So I'm done for the day. I can quit and be happy.
Oh yeah, it's ended right there. The roof is already in place. I was looking at pictures from the other day.
Panes of glass, my friend.
Oh, that they go all the way to the top and bottom, and yeah, that would be huge. Regardless,
literally huge.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at each one of these from here to here. Let's see, that's about 36 inches. So yeah, that is going to be some huge glass. And the type that you'd have to have would be a little bit more blast proof or blast resistant. Nothing's blast proof, but blast resistant. So if you have a launch, you don't want it just shaking itself apart. So it'd have to be pretty thick panes. Oh man, that would be super expensive. I was looking at some pricing for just windows that were about this size, and they were still, $2,000 a pane. It was really expensive stuff. And you have the entire area you have to cover. So if it's all one big pane, oh my gosh, that is like, I don't know. I'm going to ballpark it $70,000, $50,000, $75,000. At least for a pane, that's like the low end. But somebody who's dealt with that would probably get a better guess than that. I'm not a glass expert there.
You're not a glass expert? Since when?
Oh.
Just kidding.
Give me 20 minutes and I can Google you, get some good answers on it, but...
Give you 20 minutes, we'll still be on the same photo.
True. And I've done that in Rocket Talks. I go through rabbit holes quite often.
But it is why we enjoy you the most, my friend. Wow, what happened there?
Oh, that's netting for catching debris.
Oh, got it.
Not workers, but debris. It could potentially catch a worker, but you never want to even try something like that.
I mean, ideally, workers are not falling. That have to be caught by a net.
Or they think that it's a floor and they stand on it and it's like, oops, that wasn't a floor.
Then they're probably people like me.
I'm glad I'm hooked
in construction. Yes.
Yeah. So we've seen one worker who was installing some I-beams. He was trying to jump onto an I-beam while it was in motion.
That was when he missed, like a cat.
Yeah, but he was tied into the element, I think, behind him, and he kind of forgot, and so it pulled him off of it, and then he had to climb back up real quick. And it was like, that's really scary. Oh.
But you got to think it probably wasn't his first time.
Maybe if it's his first time, wow, that's pretty good. But how long have you been working on that? You don't want it to fall ever, but
no.
You have the safety equipment to help you. And in this case, the safety equipment helped cause it, but he was also doing something stupid. You don't get onto a moving object like that. Yeah, I guess he would be John Wayning it, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, the stairs just keep getting built, and we have no idea where they go. So either on the inside of Mega Bay, in the other corner opposite of the current stairs that they have, or somewhere entirely different. I'm hoping we'll see some of these go on the outside at some point. Would be really nice to see. Let's say for high bay, like in this section over here, you connect it to high bay, and that would make it so much better as a fire exit. And now you can actually use the area up there for other things. Because right now, as it is, it's like you can't use it as a livable space. You can't use it as a workspace, I think, because you have to access it through the outside, and you have to have so many different egress means and basically stand with the fire code. Where the current side of the right side of high bay, sure, you can get down.
Hey, Thomas, I know you're not a window glass expert, but I'm curious. There is a question from 55 Chevy Guy asking, do the windows at Starbase need to be hurricane proof or hurricane rated, excuse me?
Yes, at least category 3 for the structures that we're looking at, because that's, I think, the standard. That's what I was reading at one point, was category 3 for the building construction. So the materials used have to be specified for ratings of category 3 hurricanes. I think that the rockets might do a bit more damage if they are, as loud as they are. It's going to be, about 90 something decibels over here in this range, if I remember right. I was looking at the chart that they put out. They have a graph that shows all the decibels for rating. But yeah, having windows here that large, it's going to be kind of a problem with low frequency ranges.
Mauricio, is that what you know to be true as well, that the windows there have to be hurricane rated?
I mean, from what I know, I do a lot of photography in South Padre Island for real estate agents, and I get to visit a lot of condos out there, and most of them are hurricane proof. I think that's just the code, especially by the coast.
Guess you're right, Thomas. Good job.
It's just, I think it's the category 3 part that I might be off on. It might be that it's supposed to be like once every 50 years or 25 years that it's supposed to be, but what sticks out is category 3. Oh, by the way, 7.1 inch water bottle. Hooray. Now we've got a measurement.
Okay, you know why that's funny is because he actually measures things with water bottles. Like, that's why that's funny, because the dude actually does that.
Well, the worst part is the 49-inch stand that's standing right next to it that says 49 on it. I'm like looking for signs of like, okay, how big is this object? How big is that object? I don't look at the writing on the thing, and sometimes they just leave the measurements out for us, like that 49-inch stand.
That was the best. There's a backstory behind that. Poor Thomas, when we were looking at the OLM back in the day when they brought it in on trucks and pieces, they had him on those big red stands, not stanchions, but big red stands.
Pipe stands.
Sorry?
The pipe stands?
Yes. Mind you, these pipe stands actually listed 51 inches, but none of us saw that except for Dave. Dave came in much later on, mind you. By this time, Thomas had literally measured those pipes so many times and figured out that they were 48 inches roughly, and then measured the entire OLM using that as his marker. And he was off only by a little bit, but thank goodness for Dave, because Dave came in and he was like, yeah, that's 51 inches. And we're like, how do you know that? How can you look at that? He's like, it says it right there on every single pole that was under a piece of the OLM. It said 51 inches. And literally none of us saw that except for Dave. And he'd already measured everything. It was hilarious.
I was actually like 2 inches off. It was 51 inches, and I was like at 49.
48 is what I remember.
But anyways, it was just such a small discrepancy. And I was using, 7.1 inches for the... I found the actual brand and everything. It was hilarious. A little bit of research.
Thank goodness for Dave. That's all I have to say. We'd be lost without him. We'd still be inches off.
Now, speaking of measuring things and trying to understand what they are, I'm still trying to understand what this system is for. There's 3 of these legs. There's bolt hole patterns at the top. There's bolt hole patterns at the bottom where they actually bolt into the rest of the element. So it's either a jig for like a turntable, but it would be a very large turntable. So it's bigger than just the normal 9 meters in diameter. So in the aerial shots, you'll see, I would say maybe, what was it, 12-meter diameter. So it's actually maybe it was a little bit less than that. It's like 11. It's been a while since I measured it. Anyways, it doesn't quite fit the normal standards of how we expect these elements to work. So let me go actually to these parts. So yeah, those are the 2 of the 3 legs, and I don't actually see the third here. Makes me wonder if they started taking it down or something. Unless it's just right here off the screen.
Was that fence always there too? I feel like Morse used to get cleaner shots of that. Oh, maybe
Oh,
because
that's
he
the
had the
pole cam.
Yeah, the pole cam.
Yeah. And you can actually see right through the fence right there is this is the 6th element for a brand new transport stand for a booster. So you can barely see it through all of that, but it's actually easier to see it when it's like zoomed out like that. Is that the that element right there is another segment. So we've got 5 of these. You only need 4 for a transport stand. So
And then
that would
the
be the
transport
6th
stand
one.
clips as well. Clamps, excuse me.
The clamps themselves, they would be the elements that look like this, that they come on. They come out later, so they put on these elements here,
Yeah,
and then they attach all of the rest of this, and then they add on the scaffolding. So this is a new element. This is the 2nd time they've done this, but with the transport stand for Booster 5, which would be transport stand number 2, I think. Yeah, because 7 got the other one. Anyways, they did something very similar. They didn't paint it or any of that stuff. And from what I saw in the pole, you can actually put extensions in here.
Your clipping.
I am?
Mm-hmm. And I think what I was referring to is in that other photo that you had up, on the back on the right-hand side behind that 3-legged structure, you can see the transport stand clamps. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm with you.
Okay, so this one right here is the looks like the clamp structure for the new looks like a Starship transport stand. So they've been building a transport stand for Starships, and this looks like it's a new one. So this is the new design for hold downs for that. So this is the newest design on this. So I kind of skipped over this one because I saw it and wanted to come back to this directly.
Ta-da! We came back to it directly.
Yep. Well, it was within the line and sequence of images I'm going through here. So yeah, there's a little bit wider shot of it. So that one's pretty much done as well. We just need to see that be used for probably ship 25. It's going to be ready soon, I suspect. I don't know if we're going to see a quick disconnect system again, because they kind of changed their minds on these things very quickly, where they have a quick disconnect for transport. Is it easier to just put on the plate, or do you just go through and put on a plate and the transport stand system? It just changes back and forth so much. We saw the ship get moved yesterday, so it was a lot like that. They moved a plate onto the quick disconnect, pulled it off, put it back on. They had 2 different plates though, one at the cryo station, but we can get that to that particular picture later. So let's see if there's anything else here. Just a good wide shot of Mega Bay, because we were talking about Mega Bay. But yeah, this is a good wide shot to show what's going on. They have started resuming paneling on the sides. The idea is that maybe the same guys who are doing the roofing are also doing the paneling. So it's like, this is priority over this. So we're kind of seeing it, go back and forth. But the structure itself is being used and is ready for construction of boosters and starships. It's just the jigs and electrical and other equipment inside that needs to be completed and set up. The crane mechanisms, there's 2 of them, there are bridge cranes in the back there. Those are both active and working, and they have been for quite a while. That's what they use to pick up 16's nose cone and other elements, like for Booster 7. I think it's back in there as well.
Mm-hmm. And the bridge cranes you're referring to is the one with the mustache and the one that's at the SpaceX logo, right? Inside wide bay.
Yep, the mustache and the SpaceX crane. They're both SpaceX cranes, but
Right.
yeah,
But the logo was only on one of them. The mustache was on the other one.
yeah. So it's just an amazing building with
So
so much uses. It's
Jim
awesome.
Cabot had a question about Wide Bay. He's asking, do we know what's going to be inside? Do we know what section that will house up there where we talk about the windows and stuff, potentially?
What will be housed in here?
Hmm.
No clues. Like it's anything from storage, offices, to a whole observatory system for launches. Like this could be their launch complex up here. So you could have your computer terminals and everything set up over here to watch and control as a control center the launch from the launch site that's going to be far off to the right. If you want to grab an image of the entire overview of the launch and build sites, actually, that would be a useful element. So I could actually go through and look at those things. I always want to grab those things beforehand. I forget to do that.
Aye, aye, Capitan.
But yeah, so I guess we could go ahead and move on to the build site. I think that was actually backwards from what I was going to put, but oh well. But it works. So we had some questions on Star Factory, I think. So we can probably start with those questions as well. That have been stored.
Yeah, I think there's one so far for Star Factory. Let me just get it, but we can continue to conversate while I can find it.
Okay. So, anyways, this is the structure that I was talking about earlier that was being used to do the tests for the nose cone back last year, where they did a max Q testing, and that was the other element we were looking at before at Sanchez. That was the base structure, the same one that was used for, or was proposed to be used for a booster transport stand, and no longer is. It's just a jig, and this was what it was used for, as one of the many purposes. But anyways, the section over here looks like a 16 section. So they've been cutting this up, and this is going to scrap. And I always would love to find out that they've been keeping some of the material just to put a nice little logo on a car. Specifically, like this glove compartment for your Cybertruck is S16. So it's like, oh, that's a special edition. $10,000 more for this.
Good God.
5 pounds of stainless steel. Totally worth it.
So I did find that question about the Star Factory, if you're interested or if you're ready.
Yeah.
So Cranky Old Man asks, any speculation as to the reason the roof joists on one end of the Star Factory are spaced closer than the rest of the roof? Now, I think it has to do with the fact that it's tilted, right? It's great.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand like the question itself, that he's implying that these are all on one side are closer to one side than the other.
He's asking, why are the roof joints on one end of the factory spaced closer together than the rest of the roof?
The spacing is going to be the same as far as from one to the next. They're all parallel to each other. The only difference is that there is a slope on the roof itself, so it's sloping down. And then this right here will be the parapet. So this acts as a structural element that makes it kind of look good. When you actually do it on all sides, it makes the entire building look square instead of looking like it has a lean. Also, the nice structural part to it is that by having this here, the wind blowing across from left to right, it doesn't pick up the roof material, the roof itself, and mess up the structure. So if you have high winds, this will help this parapet. But as far as the elements being closer together, I don't understand that question unless there's something else I'm missing here.
No, I think it's pretty much why is the roof slanted. And I think you've answered that.
Yeah, it's just for water runoff. And so the other part about that is, people I had the same question myself on the parapet, if this is going to be kind of a wall. So it's a enclosed wall structure. How do you get rid of the water? And then you actually do have your gutter systems as well as other drainage systems. I can't remember the other name for it. Um, I know Phil Kid will be like screaming to himself, "Oh no, it's called this."
The gutter.
But yeah, he's an architect and he loves to talk about this stuff, and I love to listen to it. But anyways, um, the drains will basically be coming off of here. I just can't remember that particular name for one of the drain systems.
The gutter?
It's not the gutter. It's just another one. It's like for a overflow. So if the gutter gets clogged or stuck, you use this other system. So it's raised up a little bit higher, but it still allows drainage off of the roof.
Okay.
Yeah, I just can't remember. Gargoyles are the same thing. I can't remember what the name.
Gargoyles are the same thing? Gargoyles?
Yeah, no, they just they expel the water away from the building, but only a short distance. But yeah, anyways, just can't remember that word.
It'll come to you, don't worry.
Yeah, eventually. So they do have a bit new happening here, which is actually lack thereof. Meaning we're missing the ring structure that was here. So the ring structure was in here. They had an in-place machining. They were going through and working on the ring there. So I think I might have a better angle than that truck. Actually, that's a pretty good one right there. So you can't see the in-place machining right there. So they've removed that last ring. It was probably moved, I suspect, to Mega Bay. But then again, we don't have eyes on in that particular area at all times. So it's just one of those things where it disappears. Yeah.
Forgive me. Is that a Raptor truck right there?
It's looks like the same kind of trailer that Raptors would be in, and it's empty. So we did have some more deliveries of Raptors, but they typically are bringing those to tent 1. So they're bringing the backing the truck all the way up to tent 1 and unloading them. So we don't know how many we're getting. We just know that there is a number of Raptors that are being delivered. And so the other day we got a tweet from Elon saying that all Raptors are ready and being installed. He didn't say if they were on site. So I suspect that they're constantly getting more Raptors from McGregor that have been qualified. So that's where they go through and test the Raptor, make sure it works. Then they can ship it down to Starbase here and install them on Booster 7. And then eventually they'll have about 6 of those, 3 vacuum and 3 sea level for the Starship. So they're all ready. It's just a matter of going through and testing them with the vehicle because they're qualified, but they're not fully tested with the entire system, and that's going to be nice to see here. So this is the corner of Remedios we were talking about before. This is pretty much as far as you can go. Anywhere beyond this point and behind where Mauricio's at is the no trespassing sign, just like this, that says private property.
And Mauricio, you generally go from this side to get to the mudflats?
Oh no, that would be through the other San Martin.
Okay.
Or what is that? What is that street called? I think it's called San Martin.
Yeah, it's San Martin. It's the old San Martin Trail.
Come on, Thomas. You can say it the way he says it.
Oh, I don't know how to roll my R's.
San Martin.
I would probably roll it way too much, but I could say San Martin. Nope, I went high pitched because you said it.
Hey, how's it my fault? Go on.
I'm trying to go higher pitched there. Oh, what is this? Looks like scrap. Okay. But yeah, this is in the scrapyard. Maybe this is a table. It's just, I have no idea what this is all about. Good Momo? I don't know. Then Raza.
I think
I don't
it
know
says
what that
good
is.
morning. Good morning,
Good
Reza.
morning, Raza.
Reza.
Good morning.
Anyways.
What that means in Spanish, it means well, in English it means good morning. Raza means kind of like my people in Spanish.
Oh. Hey, that's
Raza
actually
in
very
English
cool.
is race, but it's a common, I guess, phrase that Hispanics use.
So we have one similar. We call ourselves Daisies. D-E-S-I. So same idea. My people.
Daisies? You said daisies or
Not
is it?
daisies.
Say the word again.
Daisy. DESI. So I don't know if you ever watched I Love Lucy, but Ricky's actual name is Desi Arnaz, right? So Desi, DESI.
Okay.
We take that same word or the same spelling and we pronounce it Desi, and it represents Indian people.
Daisy. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm learning all sorts of language today. This is awesome. Actually, I haven't learned how to roll my R's.
We'll work on it after stream. We'll give you a test next week and see if you can do
Yeah.
it.
Okay, this is the picture I was looking for. Very much an empty area under the tent. So that in-place machine gone. The ring that was here, that's 9-meter diameter, gone. It's not a ring for a Starship, but it's something for either a Starship or a super heavy. I'm not sure exactly which one it's supposed to be, but it's interesting to see that it's not here anymore. Now the theory that I have is that the 2 rings that were here are meant, that were here are meant for a jig setup to weld the thrust puck, the center thrust puck, to the aft dome, and then they will also be able to sleeve the aft dome, and they'll have a jig for that all those go together, so they have to be precisely aligned, and they'll have a robotic welder that will be working with that on a turntable, so they will turn the entire jig and articles that they're welding, and the robot stay still. So it only needs to be at one position basically, and weld and measure how much it's putting out for the voltages, as well as the material for the weld that they're adding them for the from the machine. But anyways, it's a really expensive process to do, and it's really good to see that they're actually moving forward. So they've been using the same basic process for all of the other domes, but for pucks, it's been a little bit more interesting because we haven't seen that process really, and I think it's more of a manual process. It's a little bit more sloppy compared to what they're doing here for that piece of equipment that is now missing, which is good. It means they're making progress on the construction and production of boosters, is what I'm believing that they're doing here. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out where I'm looking here, because I can see that we have the Star Factory and Tent 3.
So Mauricio.
So is this a 5? No, that's not a 5. That's a booster.
Where are you when you take this photo? Do you know offhand?
This should be between the high bay and the wide bay.
Yeah, so
Down
this
at the
be like
center.
booster 9?
Yes, probably.
Oh, yes. Jack says booster 9 forward tank number 4.
And then that other section to the side of it should be there too, right? The one we looked at the other day.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot more rings there. It's just we don't see them off to the right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like between Rocket Road, between you said Mega Bays on the left here, and then High Bays on the right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Oh, and I see part of the elevator just kind of sitting here. The old elevator, it's still here. Okay. Yeah, they're getting pretty good about welds here. I think this is still, or they're still doing machine for all the welding. This is just I think a material that they're applying afterwards. Like, I don't know if it's a zinc coating or paint or some other piece, but it might just be a bit of angle grinding. It's hard to tell. But there does seem to be, some scratches here. So it's like they've been chipping at it while it's been welding.
Don't they take like a buffer and buff it down? Like it looks like a keloid scar to me when they first do it, and then they take a buffer and buff it down.
Yeah, it kind of has like a scratch look. So you can see that the scratch is kind of going from, looks like maybe right to left here. It's hard to tell which direction they're all going, but they're removing some of that material. Maybe that's also material being applied. It's hard to tell without being right next to the ring. But anyways, it's looking great to see these being popped out so quickly. You can see that they haven't finished the stringers here. So they have these elements where they will connect the stringers together. But these ones, they haven't finished those little welds. They're just little tack welds.
Maybe there's something there.
Maybe, but this one's the same.
Yeah, I see that.
You often see it this way, where they'll have some missing segments, and it's usually because they are. Actually, this should be missing too. So I don't get that one. It's missing here, but it's not missing here. Maybe it's just pulled away and they haven't finished the welding process yet. So some outstanding work orders.
Sometimes those wells look like the writing in doggone it, I lost the show. Never mind.
Is it like an old language?
Stargate.
Oh, I love Stargate.
Mm-hmm. So if you
Great
look
show.
at that weld right there in the top, in the middle of the two stringer welds, that looks like Stargate writing to me.
Yeah, it's I think it's supposed to be like some sort of ancient Egyptian meets New Age alien gods or parasites, really. Anyways, that's Stargate for you in a nutshell. So it looks like we've got the lower section of a nose cone here. I'm trying to figure out which one this would be. So we're looking at close to tent 3. And I don't know which one this is.
I'm sure it'll come to them.
Yeah, but you can see right here they've got the ports for what Elon called, like, I guess, the antennas. He thought they might be heat sensor, but these, as far as I know, are communication antennas. The heat sensors, I haven't really seen anything that would look like that. They might be actually on the inside, so they're measuring from the inside to the outside, but there might be other systems as well to measure using radio frequencies. There's some weird stuff like that. You can see I've got a turntable system right here. So that's actually what those are. Whenever you see a motor like that, it's for a turntable. Yeah, Jackson says that it's been outside for a month and probably later if it he had to guess. Oh, he said not to say it on the stream. I'm so sorry.
And again, you keep reading.
Yes, well, that's why you put the stuff in the live chat for me.
It's true. You are thorough if you're nothing else.
Yeah, so at least I read those things, but I don't read it all the way through before I start talking. Ooh, nice. We have a grid fin just sitting here. It's been a while since we've seen a grid fin out in the wild like that. This is the old style. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all thick. You can see it.
Yeah, it's got more of or less of these little points. So each one of these points, when it's going through its hypersonic regime, it creates a shock bow that increases the drag of the grid fin. So when it's going up, so the air is coming down this way and hitting this top surface, it does, create a bit of drag, but not nearly as much as it when it goes this way, because these little shockwave elements that are creating that shockwave bow basically increase that pressure that will be being applied to the entire grid fin. And so that's how you can really keep the vehicle upright, slowing it down. And it's better than anything like a parachute. A parachute would just rip and shred, especially under hypersonic regimes.
Not if you have 3. Just kidding.
Okay, so this one, I think that's the 5 segment that is for testing the large opening for the Starship. So I think that's what this is right here.
It's the big door one, Jaxie says.
Yeah, the big door one, yes. And then we just have a 4-ring segment right here. It's could be for anything, really. I don't see any booster or Starship markings, so it's pretty much raw on that one.
Canvas.
Yep. Yeah, there's so many pieces out here. So a bunch of these are going to be Booster 9, Booster 10. Those are the ones that you see stringers on, and I don't see anything on these ones, so I can't tell what these are. They're just, I think these are the ones in the closest to the tent. So I don't even know if if Jax or other ring watchers know what some of these are.
Oh, they know. I don't even think that's in question. They know.
They know?
Mm-hmm. Question is, how fast can they tell you?
Well, he says no clue what the plain ones are. Bit early to tell. And he didn't say don't say it. He should say that at the beginning part if he doesn't want me to say anything. Yeah. So, as we said, they're the undeveloped ones. They could be for Starship. They could be for Booster. They are moving so quickly yet again. I am excited to see all these rings coming out because they are producing them. You means that we're going to have Booster 8, Booster 9, Booster 10, as well as Starships 25, 26, 27, or something along those lines. Of course, they do tend to launch these things and then they skip a bunch because it's like, well, we've got the testing we needed from that one. This part doesn't work. We have to make major revisions. So instead of fixing the one you currently have, you go through and just build a whole new Starship because it's cheaper, faster. I went through and did some pricing on just the materials alone. You're looking at like $500,000 of stainless steel at the cheapest price. That's not including the engines or anything like that, but just the stainless steel. So these are pretty cheap considering it's just the work that you have to put behind it.
And
So the
also
labor
get discounts
cost.
on top of that because everybody likes SpaceX. It's true.
But it's like aerospace grade. So they might be paying a bit of a premium for the SPX stainless steel, which is going to be a 304L derivative. They like the 304L, but it's just something is a little bit more magic about this variety because it's now, SPX 304L. So it's directly for SpaceX. They may have made some custom changes to the material being used or like magnesium or other, let's see here. I don't know. There's like 10 different elements that they use in different ratios for stainless steel. So I can't remember all the different elements. I'd have to look it up again. But anyways, now this one is interesting. It's definitely Starship. You got the heat shield tiles. And so this one would be for probably ship 20. Oh, is this ship 25?
Yes, sir. Common dome.
The common dome. Let me go back here again and see.
Ooh, did you see the writing?
Oh, there's writing everywhere.
I didn't notice that before. Wow.
I'm pretty sure there's not supposed to be tiles or installation here. What would happen if you did put tiles or installation there?
Get yelled at, and it'd come right off.
Yeah. It gets ripped off. That's first off, and then you get yelled at. Because the guy had to go through and rip it all off. And you do have a lot of welding that they'll be doing on one side, but this one, it's unusual to see that they did not want to do anything here at all. It's fairly large space that they have either some welding that they're doing on elements or something. Maybe they're doing something else with the tiles, but this stuff is typically from the welders. You'll see here.
Oh, Rohan said they also had the similar thing on Ship 24. So it is something that they are doing now. This area.
Yeah.
It says GB all over it. Who knew Zach was there?
And then his evil twin, the BG.
That's right. His evil twin. Well, GB's on the bottom.
Oh, GB's everywhere. It's GB all over the place.
That's why
but then
he's
BG.
not here. He's in Boca Chica.
Explains a lot. Know so much. Wonder why. No, if I did work for SpaceX, I would be happily signing that NDA, and my mouth would be.
You don't have an option.
My mouth would be shut. It's basically this or have the job, and I'd like to have that job there. Doing anything there,
many people
important
would agree
work
with you.
Oh yeah, one of the top companies in the United States that many people would love to work for. Okay, this one is the test tank, isn't it? It's all boostery looking to me on that bottom part, but there's
Hybrid.
Oh, there's another one that's on the left. It's the test tank. This one is a booster. Is it
Smooth
8?
dome smooth dome test tank. That's what Jaxie says. It's just 2 closed smooth domes. And
Okay.
Rohan actually has it labeled. If you want to grab that photo, that image, you can actually see the different sections labeled. Thanks, Rohan.
Okay,
Thanks,
so this
Tim.
is the sleeve development, the third stretched form dome. Okay, so that's basically the 2.6 meter dome instead of 3.6 meters in height. So it allows you a lot more volume because you can move the domes up higher. But this is all test tank. The way they built this at the bottom, though, and this is E dome, and these are both stretched. I really do suspect that this is going to be put on a cryo stand for like the can crusher or something. I don't think they're going to put the top hat on. This doesn't make sense to do that. But a cryo test, this would be perfect to go through and do that. You could even use a water technically as well for the can crusher. It's non-compressible, but under cryo loads, it is stronger for the stainless steel. It brings the grain boundaries for the stainless steel closer together, and so you do get a smaller grain when you're doing that as you are cryoing it. The stainless steel has this great property that it gets stronger the colder it gets, up until you get like beyond a certain point, and then it's negligible. There's no difference in the strength, and then you get to absolute zero, and then you've broke the universe. Anyways,
Broke the universe. You're funny.
yes. Well, nobody's been able to do it, and it's one of those like theoretical possibilities that are almost impossible, or actually are impossible. Anyways, now I'm trying to understand again where we're at, because we're looking at like ship 25 pieces here. Is this the common dome again? Oh, actually no. This would be looks like the common dome right here. So this would be the methane tank. You've got the flight termination system here. You've got the cowbells. Can't have you got to have more cowbells.
As in
That's
ullage thrust covers?
yeah, they're ullage thrusters, but I like to call them cowbells because that's what they look like.
And there's actually a label in the chat if you want to grab that of the different tanks so you know, because you were wondering. And did you
Okay, let me
also
go
notice
back.
the pipe that goes from that little ullage? I think this is a ullage thing, right? This circular thing in the center that doesn't have a cover? To the right of the FTS panels on that center. Right
Yeah,
there.
this would be
No,
another.
to the
Yeah,
right.
this.
To the
Oh,
right,
that
Thomas. Keep going.
this
Yeah. That pipe is new that connects to it, isn't it?
this is autogenous pressurization.
Autogenous.
Yes. So they're putting in the hot gases from the Raptors. This would be hot oxygen gas that they're putting into the oxygen tank. And then there will be the other one that goes up to the right of this. And then this one right here, this little line, it goes up to the header tank. And this might be one of the pipes that broke the other day. On
This one or
the
the one that has the 3 that we were saying was the recovery and then the 2 going in potentially?
well, it's the same line. It's just further down the line.
Oh, I
It
see.
may have contracted, and during that contraction, it broke. It pulled away. But it would imply that they were putting cold gases through it, so they might be pulling gases through the autogenous pressurization lines. So you might be able to run these in reverse so that you can pull the gases off the system, because there's not a lot of pipes running throughout the Starship. They want as few perforations into the tanks as possible. And if you are going to make the perforations, sometimes you have to do it on the inside, sometimes it's on the outside. This one is going to be going from the outside in. You have to do a basically weld doubler with your perforation into there. So basically a hole. And basically you want the system itself to have, all of these things, these perforations on the outside, where the inside, you're going to only have the downcomers, or the basically where the fluids transfer through the common dome and everything else, for your header tank. So your LOX and header tank, and then your methane header tank is actually going to go through the center right here, but you want the LOX header tank to go through the side. But yeah, so as I said, the flight termination systems right here, they will cover up this element as well. They will have the raceway go through the middle of it, I believe, is a covered area.
So the chines
So
will
you
go on top of this, potentially.
chines?
Strakes, chines, the big diagonal things that they're putting on the end.
This is Starship.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Yeah, heat shield tiles. I was
Thank you.
just like,
Thank you.
chines. It
My
doesn't
bad.
have them on the.
You said covers.
well,
I
actually-
thought chines.
Okay, so technically, chines do exist on the Starship. They are the aero covers for the flaps. Those would technically count as chines. And the difference between chines and strakes is that one is for a leading edge of a aerodynamic surface. The other one is just basically a aerodynamic surface, kind of like at the bottom of a boat. You have those weird little curves. Those are going to be the same as what basically the booster has. Anyways, we can move forward a little bit more here with the picture of this. We have the 25 common dome. So you can actually see, as I mentioned before, the weld line right there. And then booster 9 forward tank. And then ship 25 midlocks. So basically this goes underneath this. That's the short version of it. The thing that you are missing for the attaching that is going to be those little triangle pieces. I think they still are doing that. It's just they don't do it at this point. So this entire piece right here is to keep the ring structure from folding in on itself. There's not much other elements besides, let me say, the heat shield tiles, some pipes, not much else. So you do need to keep these on the 4-stack rings and 5-stack rings. 3-stack rings, you might be able to get away without using it. This one already has the common dome right here, so it doesn't have the risk of caving in on itself under like high winds of 40 mile an hour plus. Ooh, I see a manhole. Hooray. So this would be, looks like ship 26 common sleeve is what Rohan has it down as. So let me grab the image he has here. Then we've got booster 9 or 10. These are the forward tanks, or one of the other. Booster 9 or 10's forward tank number 3 here. So
The ship
they are moving
26
along
common
so
dome.
quickly.
That one you're looking at right now, that center one?
Yep.
Ship 26 common dome.
Yeah, this one I mentioned before, but yeah, right
Oh,
here it's the same one.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I just love seeing all the rings being popped out of the production site here. They're going to be off and on some of the production here, and so they want to get ahead of that. So they'll have enough materials as they close up the tents and replace them with basically the Star Factory. And I wonder if they're going to be doing it 1 tent at a time that they're replacing, or maybe up to 2 tents at a time, or 3. It'll be really interesting to see how much stuff they can move around, and it'll be kind of cool to just get a Starship almost every other month, basically. So we can do the first year 8 Starship launches. You could do 3 expendable, and then 5 actual, or 3. I'm sorry, not expendable. They'll be expendable, but 3 test demos. Because they're still in process of developing the thing and they want to understand how it works. And by launching it, you get way more data than if you just, do it by simulations and build the design, decades before the thing is actually built. And that's kind of the old school way of doing these things. And it's rather slow.
So you were talking about tents and everything like that. John Dopker's a little bit confused, and maybe some other people are as well. He's wondering, after Star Factory is completed, are the production tents going to be gone, or will they still be used for production?
After their Star Factory is completed, it will have replaced the tents. It should be going from where it's at currently. Let me see if I can grab a flyover picture of that part of the site here.
I put a couple in there.
Okay, so here's the Star Factory being built. So you've got the Star Factory, Tents 3, Tents 2, and Tents 1. So the overall design is that it looks like they will make perforations, so you can go through and make a door here, and let's say a door over here. So you can actually move elements from one side of the building to the other, and then this would basically be a firewall. That's my speculation, because the way that they are building this, it doesn't have any insulation on it. They don't plan on building it the same way as these exterior walls. So these are exterior walls. This should be an interior wall. You just want to have it as a fire break. That way you don't have to have all the pumps and water on site. But regardless, back to the question is, they are probably going to go through, build this tent, and then start over here or over here. I'm not sure which way they're going to go. Not the tent, the Star Factory. They're going to replace all of these, and so it will go to about probably here where the shipping containers are at, and it's going to be the same width as the shipping containers. So there is about 10 shipping containers that are 40 feet apiece. So you have 400 feet of building going from here all the way to here. So you have this large footprint. This is going to be very similar to what they're doing at the site out in Florida. So Roberts Road, they have that Star Factory 2, I guess you'd call it. And this is going to be the prototype of the production, as well as the prototype of vehicles. And then they're actually going to have functional launches from Boca Chica, which hopefully over the years that they will increase to at least once a month. That's what Elon's wanting, is to be at least one flight a month. And that'll be great, because then you get to pick what time of year you'd like to have a launch and go for it. There might actually be launches not occurring during certain times because of turtles or other things. So that's going to all have to be timed well in advance. But anyways, the Star Factory. Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering, Mauricio, can you hear them do a static fire from your area?
Oh no, I'm way too far away. I'm about an hour and a half away.
Okay.
From my understanding, they Port Isabel or Laguna Vista, they can hear it from that area. So that's. Wow. I need to check what the distance is, but that's further away than what's it called on South Padre Island.
That's even further.
But I'll get back to you. Oh yeah.
Wow. Interesting. I'm just curious, because I would think sound is going to become an issue potentially as we test 33 Raptors.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up the Google Maps here real quick, because a lot of people don't understand where things are at relative to other things, and this is just a quick
Is this a new
view.
Google Map image?
I think this is just the old one still.
Interesting.
So Laguna Vista to the launch site, it's about 19 kilometers.
I'm trying to find Laguna Vista. You're
To
over.
your right,
You're talking about
Thomas?
over here.
No, right near South Padre Island. Go directly to the left of South Padre Island. You'll see it.
Oh, Port Isabel you're talking about? Or
No.
Laguna Heights? Oh, Laguna Vista. There we go. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
No.
I'm used to this area and this area, but Laguna Vista. I've never actually been there. I've been down to the Highway 48 and all the way up to South Padre Island and back and forth there. But I haven't been over to Laguna Vista. But
So
the launch site is right
we'll go visit
here.
Laguna Vista when we come.
Just driving around a lot,
Yeah.
getting lost, just so we could intentionally lost. This actually does look to be fairly recent.
Wow, look at that. This is Google Maps, right? Wow.
Yeah.
They
This is
have
Google
updated
Maps.
their photos. Wow.
It's finally updated. It's not just a dirt patch anymore.
Look at that.
So that's useful. You can
Look at
go
the
through and
shadow
describe a
of the
lot from
tower,
this.
Man.
Yeah, it's a tall tower, and this is probably closer to the morning. So the sunrise is from the east, sets in the west. So there's
Look.
anyways.
And they actually labeled it too. I like that. Although I don't know that the landing pad exists anymore.
No, it doesn't. This is not a landing pad anymore. This is just a big block of concrete where you can park, stage, and well, we're here again at the launch site. This is old.
Oh, look at the cranes! Look at the colorful cranes.
Oh, wow. And the road is gone. My goodness, is gone. This is when they were redoing the road a little while back. This is a huge change. Like, there used to be the berm here. It's gone. Wow. I'm sorry, but that was something I was not going to go through and look at. It was just this area here. Didn't too much. Anyways, so you've got the exact location of the launch site right here. So you can easily get the distances between here and, let's say, South Padre, which is going to be about 4.9 miles, so about almost 5 miles. The closest you can physically get, pretty much. Anyways, South Padre, I'm sorry, Port Isabel, like right here, your closest is going to be here. So again, it's about a little bit over 5 miles, 5.3. The sound is one of those things where, as you go out, the further you go, it decreases. So it uses what's called the inverse square law. The energy, the amount of sound that you hear between this and just the amount of ambient for nature. Like, if you're in McAllen, if you're really listening out in an open field up a little bit higher, you'll be able to probably hear the vehicle fly, but you really have to listen for it. Whereas people in Brownsville, South Padre Island, they will be able to hear it during the launch. Sometimes it will just sound like a plane flying by, which they've got an airport right here, so planes fly overhead all the time. So they land on these runways, and so you'll have planes coming in from this way. I think those are just the 2 runways there. So you have those 4 directions that they will fly in from, depending on wind and other things.
But let's look at rockets.
Yes. So more pictures are better. But yeah, that was the answer to that one question about
Thank you.
sound.
I appreciate that. I remember there's a theory about what these cutouts are for. We don't know what they're for, right?
So there's a element that they put in right here for the downcomer for the LOX header tank, and so they need to have a welding point. So they put a weld like right in here and a weld right in here, and it's on the other side. But you don't want to mess up your tiles and other things, so that's why it is left the way it is.
Interesting. That wasn't the theory I heard, but okay, that makes sense.
What was the theory that you heard? I want to hear that.
I have to remember. I'll come back to it.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just what I remember is that they have to triangle point for those 2. The question though is, now we've got 2 downcomers. Are they going to be doing a triangle here and from here to here and here to here or something like that? But this is going to be. Oh wait, never mind. This was going to be the mid locks. You said. That was pointed out earlier.
Yeah, I think you have the image with the labels too.
Yeah, I have to go back.
Oh, no worries.
Where did that go? Or did I just skip it entirely?
Grabbed it yet?
I guess I must have missed it or grabbed it to put it somewhere else. Anyways, so there's those 2 same cutouts. So it's where I believe they're welding. Okay, so this doesn't show the particular one here. I think it's this earlier one. There we go. So yeah, this would be the mid locks. So yeah, this would be the LOX tank. There's not going to be anything more than methane. The main downcomer goes straight through the center, where these are the LOX header tank, and it's just attached to the wall. And it does make sense because you want to use as the least material possible. So attaching to the wall, you can make sure it's stable. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so let's see what else we've got for the build site here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually see if I can pull up images directly live as we're going here.
You can do it.
Yeah, but yeah, this is going to be an interesting vehicle, as we've mentioned before, is how this is built. This is going to be your entry and exit for the methane tank. So basically, you stand on the common dome, and it kind of slopes down. So you'll definitely need a ladder to golf up and down on that so that you don't slip inside. You don't like those kinds of things. So I just had to load some things, and it takes me a moment, so skip around a little bit better. So let's jump from this to the deliveries area here. We saw the second element of this leave the build site yesterday. So they are moving these elements from the build site to, I believe, Sanchez. So this is part of a jig crane that they were using for Booster 5, and then they were going to maybe use it for Booster 6. And it's just a crane that was used to put in the LOX header tank against the sidewall. But they no longer are doing that, so they no longer need this piece of equipment. It's just taking up some room. Maybe they can use it for something later, so they kind of always hold on to stuff like that until they really know that, no, we never need this thing. It was a very useful element when they needed it, and then they didn't actually need it. So when you delete things, you kind of go through a bunch of that kind of stuff. Oh, interesting cryptic numbers here. No clue what that means. March 16th to? No.
Or February 16th.
But what does the M mean? Monday the 16th? I don't know. Yeah, I can barely see that there's something in there. Might be interesting, but it's just probably keeping it out of the weather. So it might be just some sort of generator or something that's electric. I don't know. But yeah, there's always these cool little details that they have on site there that would love to go through and see what it's out in the open. Just like that. So it looks like a pneumatic system, or maybe a hydraulic system. These look like pneumatic cylinders. So I'm not sure what that's for because I can't see from the above. That's why tomorrow we do have the flyover. So Maurice, do you actually want to talk about that real quick? The flyover tomorrow. What time do you think you're actually going to be out there and doing this flyover? I guess he's muted, or we lost him.
He said he was scheduled to go out at 8 a.m. tomorrow, his time.
Okay, nice.
So hopefully by the afternoon, we will all be granted access to some views that we haven't seen in a while. A week, in fact.
And the flyovers are the day that everybody gets kind of up to date on what's going on Starbase with every photo. So this is basically the ground shots, and we usually do aerial shots every week for those tuning in. So it's nice to be able to go through, understand what's going on at Starbase, and doing it from the ground and from the air is really nice. So you can see like the actual height of things versus just the size and layout of the site and where things are at. Okay, so speaking of where we're at, Booster 8 now has 24 out of 24 rings for its lock section, and it has basically the methane section almost ready to be stacked here fairly soon as well. We're moving really quick. This is nice.
And do we think it has to do with the PEA potentially being done?
It's super close to being done. We kind of jumped the gun. We thought we had the 4F part of the Section 4F determination already concluded, but it just says on the site, Section 4F determination concluded, but it had the date at this future date, but it's actually just got completed 2 days ago. So that's good to know that they have moved forward on that side of things. The other day we did have this large gathering of SpaceX folks. We were able to watch that on Lab Padre's Rover OneCam. They were all over at Mega Bay watching some sort of presentation. You could hear some music in the background from, I think it was Alien Space's stream that she had recorded that day. You can hear this like music playing in the background, and it's kind of loud, but it's not like the normal workers' music. So that was the day that they had that presentation, and we saw all these people's feet. They blocked up the view. It was kind of interesting to say that there might be this like mad rush to, okay, we're getting the PEA done. We're going to go ahead and go full throttle on some of this stuff that we've been holding off on, and so we want to see this flight happen. And everybody was coming out all smiles. So that was a really good sign that everybody was extremely happy about what's going on. It was kind of like an all hands on deck kind of thing. I'm thinking that either the boss man or boss lady were in town and did that presentation, but I don't know. We don't have much information on that.
Intentionally.
Yeah, Booster 8, it's coming along fast. It's going to be ready to be launched right after Booster 7, I think. It's just understanding all of the other systems here. So I've got some nice forward, these are header tanks, or tank heads, sorry. And those are also made in Texas. As far as I know, I've seen some labels of the company who makes these, and it's really cool. They make these for just normal tanks, but these are Starship grade. They work. It holds the same amount of pressure that it needs to. They're strong, durable, light. So might as well use a company who builds these for a living. So these get shipped in, and there's, just like the place that makes these has just stacks and stacks of things like this, but they're not nearly as this big. They're usually a bit smaller. So yeah, that's the old 3.6. It hasn't moved around. This is 3.6 meters about, and then the new one's 2.6 meters, so it's much smaller.
We also have a labeled version, if you'd like.
And then Rohan,
yes, sir.
he's going online just a little bit ahead where I was at. I didn't see the note, but here we go. There's the common dome for 26 and 26 forward dome. But yeah, they just kind of sit around for a long time, and then you're wondering, are they actually going to use it? Are they going to get to 26?
Oh,
because they like to skip things. Well, they might skip 26 and go right to like 30.
Yeah, and then they'll get relabeled 30 because they're not actually in the Starship yet.
Unless they decide to do flatter domes. Just saying. That's always an element. Like when you change something, and you've already assigned, let's say, V's to 26, they're now no longer using the forward dome. The common dome, it doesn't really matter. You can do it either way. The only thing that is a little bit better about the flatter domes, if you let's say did a flatter common dome, is that you use less material, so it weighs less. And it's a little bit stronger because it has less welds and it's all stretch formed. I just love those common domes and stretch forming. Now I don't see. Oh, these are like. Oh wow! Actually, I'm not sure what these are. These are just dome-shaped objects that look like they're part of the tank heads, but they're completely different. They look like part of a booster.
Header tank domes. Jaxie's the man.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, the header tank, but I think these are the boosters because I don't. Let's see that
How can
curve.
you tell?
That curve is not the same as a Starship's.
Sorry, correction. That was Rohan who posted that they are header tank domes. My apologies.
Thank you, Rohan. I'd love to have him on the stream here. I heard Jax talk the other day. It's really nice to hear from him.
And
I've heard,
epic.
That was epic.
It was like Max Q speaking epic.
Yes, I love to hear from everybody. It's always nice to have some new voices in here. Okay, these are the new versions of the ice cream scoops. I love it.
Oh, wow.
So these are for the Starship. So this is how they to connect the piping for the vac wraps.
They got so much more concise with that. I'm so impressed. They used to be like actual ice cream scoops. They looked like it at least.
Yeah. Well, we can jump right to the question that everybody has that nobody has an answer to. I mean, there's as many people there's opinions about this, but nobody knows the actual correct answer until they do something with it. So we're just sitting there waiting for the mystery box. Like, that is the most apt description for what this is. Maybe white mystery box, because now it's white, but it's white inside and out. And they've got something interesting. I noticed that there's some structural elements underneath that they painted white as well. So you can see, like, this guy right here. This has all been painted white. So this is always supposed to be raised off the ground about this amount. Really confounds me, honestly, what this is supposed to be, where it's supposed to go.
Mauricio? Does Mauricio have an idea? He's closest to it out of all of us.
Yeah, is Mauricio here, or is he still off a bit?
No, I'm still here. Sorry,
Okay.
I took a. Yeah, I have no clue.
No clue.
I have
Do
no
you have
clue
a
what that
guess,
is.
though? A guess, a thought, anything?
I mean, everybody's been talking about it being a Starlink
Yeah.
related. So, I mean, I'm going with that.
Welcome to the right side of the road. Just kidding. Thomas is of a different opinion.
Oh no, I'm of many opinions. Like, the fact that they painted this says that, yeah, this is going to be outside. You could easily build a mechanism to go with this and the Starlink dispenser, but you would have to raise this up in order to put the Starlinks inside of the vehicle. So maybe this is their version of a clean room environment where you lower the Starlinks directly from up above into this structure here, and then you lift the entire structure up to the Starship to move the Starlinks from one system to another in a clean room environment, because you don't want your Starlinks getting all messy or gunked up with dirt and dust here. They just have to have a system to kind of connect the two. It's just, why does it have the stands so far off the ground if you're going to just lift it? Why even have that?
So it doesn't get messed up. There are a bunch of different opinions, too. LPTV says, could the mystery box be a home for Spot, that Boston Dynamics dog?
This would be a mansion for Spot. I mean, not just a home, like a whole mansion. That would be the most useless piece of metal for that dog, unfortunately. I love Spot, or actually Apollo is the one that we're thinking of. But yeah, it's like a castle. Like, no, why do we give a castle to a robo dog? Like a real dog, like Sunny,
why do we give a castle
definitely.
to a dog?
A fake dog? I don't know. But Sunny, at least, you can get a really cool structure. Or for cats, they've got their play castles.
You're funny.
This would not make sense for Spot.
A couple people
but
think
robots,
it's a trash compactor.
Trash compactor, really nice one.
Somebody
but robots, though.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me stick with the robots part for a bit. So if you're going to actually do something with robots, not specifically Spot, you could do robotic arms, where it's housed a robotic arm that you don't want people to see the light for the welding. That's been one idea that's kind of been going around for a long time. However, why would you paint it inside of it white too? You're going to ruin that finish very quickly.
There are a lot of different thoughts. Mauser actually had a good point. He was saying that it matches the payload door on ship 24, which means it could be for Starlink. I like that idea, Mauser. Jaxie.
Yeah, that's like the closest one so far.
Jaxie says it could be a cage for bad employees.
Oh, Stumpy, do you think he'll get a chance to be in this cage? It's a really nice cage versus his.
Don't think that was not suggested by Mauser.
No, that's my suggestion. Stumpy is a contributor over at Lab Padre. He loves to move around the cameras and everything else for us over there, and we always have the joke that he's in he's in his little dungeon or the box or the shipping container or whatever, because we had the pad cam back there for a long time ago.
Long story short, we need to contain Stumpy and all of his antics, so we stick him in a box.
Yeah. Oh, looks like another
this is
part.
Cool. Look
26. Yeah, so these are all the studs. I think that they've been bringing the rings in to be studded in the windbreak over here. So these are the studs for the heat shield tiles. And so they've been using that, I think, to do this. And then Rohan has gotten me a picture of this, so thank you for that. So I've got the S25 payload barrel and the S26 payload barrel. Makes sense. Because these are both 5-ring stacks. You can't really see it too well in this one, but I think it's a little bit more obvious in this one here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wahahaha. Sorry, I got to go through and count every once in a while.
I like the laugh. The laugh is what got me. Before we get too much further, I also wanted to thank John Dopker. He also donated another $20 for gas and coffee fundage. Thanks, John.
It's like he also has a question we can go through and ask about as well.
Sure. He wants. Which question are you talking about?
John Dopker's question here.
The one that says, "How about a room for batteries at the solar farm?"
Yeah, it's as valid as many other ones.
Oh yeah.
As ideas for the mystery box. The closest one that makes the most sense so far is that hole at the front. It has that same width as the Starlink dispenser for Starship. So that's the only thing that's the giveaway that says Starlink is more likely, but it just increases the odds by a little bit, but it's not 100% kind of thing. And so just using a quick aerial shot here. Let's see if you can see this. Yeah, this is the mystery box. You can kind of see the opening right there. Maybe I have a better picture than. So these are from the flyover from last week.
I'll get it. You can keep talking as you like.
That's much better. There we go. So you can see that it's got the hole. It's rounded right here on both ends. So that is very similar to Starlink as well. So structurally, that's been stiffened quite a bit. It has that radius there for both of those. But yeah, still mystery box. If you could lift Starlinks, put them in, and then dispense them into, basically this is a pallet stacker or unstacker.
Or a container for a stacked pallet, right?
Yeah.
And then Pez dispense it out.
Yeah, a Pez dispenser to a Pez dispenser. That would be interesting.
No, like the thing within the Pez dispenser that holds all the Pez. That's what that would be for.
Well, this would be like for both. Like this one would be a Pez dispenser. It's just an upside down Pez dispenser. And then the Starship is the Pez dispenser as well.
Itself, agreed. So the cartridge would be the white box. The Pez would be the Starlinks. And the Pez dispenser would be the Starship.
Yep. And Grandpa Joe is the one who kind of coined that name, and then it somehow ended up elsewhere as well.
I feel
so that was fun.
Not to take away from Grandpa Joe, but Pez dispenser is kind of the common theme. Like when you see that, that's what you see.
Oh, yeah.
Not to take away from Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe is very brilliant and quite the mathematician.
Yep. He's been working with me on the payload capacity, theoretical payload capacity of this orbital tanker that they're doing. And we've gotten to around 375 metric tons. I'm going to be playing around with the numbers a bit more and using the latest data and some future ideas like Raptor version 2s up to 250 metric tons of thrust, that kind of thing, to see what we can eke out of the out of it and see if we can go even further as far as what it can do as far as a theoretical payload of a disposable stretched Starship that's nothing but tank. And the question would be, do you count the vehicle if it's tanks and it's the actual thing that you're trying to get up into space as the as part of the cargo? Because it kind of would be. So really increases the cargo a lot. So biggest Starship ever will be the largest payload ever, which will be itself and a little bit of propellant. Well, I think we can go ahead and jump on over to the launch site now if you guys are ready.
Woohoo! Ready.
So, Mauricio, how long does it normally take you to go through and take photos like this? Once you kind of get you've been doing this for a while, but how long does it usually take to go through and go from site to site, taking all these pictures?
I want to say that it's usually about 2 hours and a half. sometimes more, depending on if there's anything happening. Like, for example, yesterday they were about to move Starship onto Pad A, but it was already getting too late, so I had to take off for that. But yeah, for the most part, about 2 hours and a half.
Yeah, so this is this is awesome to see. Like, you got it right before they moved it. It went from here to the test stand A over here. So they were pretty quick about that once they did get moving here. But yeah, this is over at the cryo station. Of course, we've got the integration tower. The theory I have about this still is that they will not put on the cladding until they have part of the PEA done and they are, going for that launch license. Because right now they are still under a suborbital launch license, and it's been extended another year, so they can continue to launch Starships for testing and suborbital altitudes up to 30 kilometers. So yeah, it's just one of those things where right now it is currently under that testing regime. They don't have the license to do anything more. Right now, this does function for a lot of suborbital testing. They will be able to use this in the orbital launch license as well. I believe there's an email note saying, well, you're kind of building this on your own risk. So if something doesn't happen or it takes a while to get there, it's a risk that SpaceX is putting out to build this very custom structure. We were actually kind of talking about this yesterday, is that the entire structure is very much a piece of like intellectual property that they've built and designed, that you can see a lot of the elements from the outside and kind of understand how it works and goes together, but it's still like there's a lot of details that we don't understand. We can see where the main pipes go, what they are, and how it operates. But yeah, it's just an incredible piece of engineering and design. And then the catch tower, the catching mechanism for the chopsticks, like, it just adds so much more complexity to the whole thing. This is pretty much between this and what's behind it, which would be the stage 0, are huge elements of the rocket. So like this plus the table, I think you could say that they are both stage 0, or stage 0 and stage 3, because it catches the rocket, or lands on the rocket lands on it. The booster will. And so these chopsticks here, having them be able to have a dynamic load, where you're landing your booster and then eventually your Starship on it, that is just incredible. By the way, Mauricio, how many launches have you seen? Have you seen them all, or have you missed a one or two here?
I've actually seen all of them except for Starhopper. Actually, no, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen all the Starship ones except SN11. Since that was like the most awkward one. I don't.
Nobody saw SN11. We're still waiting for it to come back.
Yeah, I don't regret not showing up. I mean, my plan was to show up at South Padre Island and just watch it from there, but nobody saw it anyway, so I don't regret that one. And then the Starhopper and I think SN5 and 6, I didn't see those. I couldn't make it to those.
You saw
But I
8,
saw
9, and 10, though? You saw 10 land and then blow?
Yes, I saw that.
Well, that was like probably the most exciting one, because not only did you basically have equivalent of a static fire, it was, they had to make some adjustments to the engines because they were giving them too much thrust. They went through and, they had that static fire. They had a launch. They had a perfect launch, and then descent, and then a landing, and that was almost perfect. Just landed a little too hard. And the design of that system had problems with the downcomer too, which I'm glad they changed. And I think that's really what killed it when it blew up, was that downcomer design. But yeah, then it blew up and it had that RUD, which, that's another one to check off the list. If you're not breaking something, you're not learning. And so it is able to disassemble itself very quickly.
Wasn't 10 the one we saw the insides of the COPV everywhere?
Oh, yes. Like, they went all over the place. But it also, at the same time, because it blew up, it went about 150 meters up into the air. Is that another launch license you're going to have to get with the FAA? We never got that one answered. It was an unscheduled launch.
It's all covered in that one. launch license that they had.
Oh, that one launch between that one launch on the one day. Okay.
Right. The only time it wasn't covered was that from May. I think it was the beginning of May, end of May. It ended of this year, and then there was a gap of a week.
Yeah. So it's a short gap. They do have it back to, they are under that launch license, suborbital launch license. And I'm hoping we still get it in July. By July, the actual launch license. So the PEA, it's supposed to be the 13th now. Is when I think.
Yeah.
13th of June. Let's see what that is. Monday? Yeah, that sounds right. So hopefully that's all taken care of by then, and we can now go ahead and do all of the insurance and other logistics that are necessary for the launch license. So the PEA doesn't guarantee the launch license. It just says you have the program that you need to run for, going through to that path. Or do we need to do a full EIS? Like, that's really what this is about. What is going to be mitigated? Or do we need to learn more things? Or are you going to go through and watch and observe and, give feedback and data of what you learn and observe of, let's say, the different animals and plants in the area that are protected and whatnot. It's just going to be an interesting process to go through and watch and observe. So might as well jump back to the the launch site here. They have been getting all of the raceway pretty much covered up for the electric side. So that's nice to see. So I have to eat a little bit of crow on that because I'm like, wow, they've been covering them up with pipes so far. And then they came back with wires and was kind of wondering what they're going to do there. And well, this is it. They cover it up. So they have this running through the flight termination system as far as the coverings go as well. But this is the area that we are kind of most interested in, is that Starlink PEZ dispenser. And let's see if I've got another view of that. I thought I saw a really good one. Yes, we do. So just jumping right over to, that's this one. We've got that material right here. It's like a foam or some sort of basically seal to prevent the gases from escaping, because what you want to do is keep this area pressurized during launch. It doesn't have to be 100% leak proof. You just need to keep it mostly pressurized while you're in launch and going into space, and that'll keep the entire structure, even if it's just below 1 bar, which is 1 atmosphere of pressure, keeps it nice and strong. Elon talked about that in the EDA interview. But the really cool part is that you can depressurize this whole system and then repressurize it so that you can go ahead and try to land the vehicle, or in this case, do a splashdown.
No RUD.
No RUD. Well, I mean, a splashdown RUD would be pretty fun. It's like it splashes down and then it lands in the water and then it tips over, then blows up. That would be awesome. You got everything checked off.
Nope.
If it doesn't RUD, they're going to have problems. You know why?
Because it would have landed in the water gently, and then they can take all the data and get what they need.
Well, the problem would be that they would have to go through and destroy the vehicles, so the Army would probably have to go out there again and take care of it for them.
Why I got to kill a dream, my friend? Why I got to kill a dream? Do I kill your dreams?
It's going to be quite dented. But yeah, let's go for the questions.
There was a question about what that little yellow circular thing is, just to the right and down from where you're currently looking.
Yes, right here. So this is going to be your Starlink. So right here is what we have would be called a radome. So it's basically a protective surface protecting the Starlink on the other side. But what you do is you take this and then you glue on special, basically radome tiles. So they're transparent to radio frequencies for the heat shield tiles. And you can now have a Starlink that's not going to melt. This is going to get very hot in this region as well. It's not going to be as hot as the region with the tiles. So this is the edge that's the plasma wake will be going around. But you will still get a lot of heat in this area by covering it in heat shield tiles you basically reduce that heat transfer. So in basically these thermal tiles is what they'd be called, as well as TPS, the thermal protection system. They will protect that Starlink there. So they need the Starlink for communications. They use it for high data bandwidth, and it's also kind of, very much a jury-rigged system where they're testing it out on a vehicle flying into space. Normally, you don't have a Starlink system like that flying into space, and they also be able to try to communicate with the vehicle from the Starlink satellites as it's landing, going through the plasma wake. They want to try to communicate with it, just see how good they can communicate with their vehicle throughout the entire process. More of that they can get, the better. But if this doesn't work so well, that's what these are for. These would be a black box type device. So it would also maybe be like an EPIRB. It's kind of like a whole list of items where it could be, but we know that it's a system that is released. So let me actually zoom in a little bit better. Each one of these elements on the top and then on the bottom, they actually pull away and retract, and then they just release it. So you can see how they have these little clamps. They will release these cylinders, and the reason that they are orange like this is so that they can be seen in the water, because you're going to be dropping these off either at landing or at some point during flight. If you want to be able to drop one of these off, you could, but there's two of them for probably redundancy, and then they'll have some sort of encrypted SD card or something like that allows SpaceX to go through, get raw video and telemetry data directly from the vehicle while it was in flight. It just writes directly into a little computer that's inside of there with that little card that has that storage there, so that you can understand what, if anything, went wrong with the vehicle. If it made it through the entire flight, these would be pretty nice to have, but it's like, it worked. There's not going to be too much more you're going to learn with a thermal protection system, at least, that you can't learn with the actual flight. So they're going to...
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say something you pointed out yesterday, that Starlink circular piece right there. They've moved that now leeward on ship 25. Yeah. And why, Thomas?
Well, that stringer's kind of in the way, or lack thereof.
The hole that's in the way.
Well, the hole is in the way of the stringer. So they have the PEZ dispenser right here, and this is kind of like a door frame. You put your structural load around the door frame, so you want to be able to move that around. So even at your house, you have basically 2x4s around your door that do the same kind of thing here. They take the load from up above and they transfer it around the door. So this is the payload door technically, so it works out. But this part, the stringer is just kind of ends. It doesn't really do any good to do that. So they do have it moved over to the left here between basically where the EPIRBs would be. And then you can move these actually wherever you want. You could have had these here, or maybe even like here. It just wherever you want to run wire and communication devices like PoE or power over Ethernet, whatever they're going to use for connecting these. And you can actually see on some other zoomed in shots, this one doesn't have it because it's really hard to get a good tight shot of this area down here. But there are wires running into this little device. So it does have some sort of communication capability for communicating with the vehicle. So that's why we say it would be a black box of sorts. And if you have a black box, you do want to be able to find it.
Yeah, it would defeat the purpose otherwise. Can you get into a little bit about the Starlink dish and how it's built into the hatch? Because I believe there's some confusion.
So yeah, it is the hatch itself. This is the hatch that is to the cargo bay. So this is not the hatch for, let's say, down here, where this guy is a temporary hatch, but this is a methane hatch. Then you'll have one down to the bottom right that's a LOX hatch. The other day when they're doing the cryo test, it was very leaky, but then again, it's just like this. It has handles that are temporary. It's not supposed to be there permanently. So it's a stand-in, and so they don't have the best of seals on that, which doesn't matter. Just you want to know that, yes, your vehicle does hold cryo. The hatch leaked. Oh, what? Oh, so what? You're going to replace it anyways.
I like the
But this
what.
one right here, the oh what?
I like that a lot, actually.
But yeah,
This
so
one right here.
this is basically the same hatch. They'll have a I think they use USB standard for Starlink. So it's USB-C. So they have it connected into their system using probably a very military grade / proprietary connector. So every time they close this hatch and put the Starlink system back in place, or at least this part back in place, they'll have to hook it back up. I don't know if we actually have the Starlink on it presently, but on the other side would be where the Starlink would be at. So it's just something you just bolt on. It's not a huge deal. And then you have a couple of wires that are run that are, as I said, that USB-C type standard.
And included in standards are all these very generous people who have been donating like mad as you're continuing to talk about this stuff. And we start off with Jackstrix, who started with a €10 donation. She says thanks to the whole team. Rocket Profit matches hers, comes in with $10 as well and challenges everybody else. Jim Cavett comes in with $2 and says thanks for the memories. John Dopker with $10 and says yup. Techno Dino, our very own, he comes in with $10 and he says we're doing the $10 train again. Count me in. And then Mauser.
Wow, thank you, everybody. Oh,
Wait,
Mauser.
there's still Mauser. Mauser came in also with $10 and said fly safe. Now you can thank everybody.
I fly safe. I know that line from somewhere. Fly safe.
Who it could be.
Yeah, I think that's a Scott Manley quote.
I believe he's my neighbor.
Really?
Not really. Not literally.
Really? He's your
As in,
neighbor
like,
in the sense
California.
that California. Okay.
Yeah, not literally.
So you're like my neighbor. You're in the U.S.
Wow, that's bad, Thomas. I wasn't like that far off. He could be here for all I know.
True.
Right?
True. He could be literally your neighbor, like 5 houses down. You'd have no clue.
I'm sure he doesn't have a condo, though. He probably has one of the mansions around me.
Yeah, I think he works for Apple. Anyways.
That doesn't mean anything. That means he has a mansion.
It just means he has iPhone and Apple products.
Okay.
Doesn't mean anything else.
Got it.
But yeah, so anyways. We've been
rockets.
Yeah. So we do have a little bit more to talk about here on the
These pipes
Ship
are the
24.
ones that you were saying in theory, one of those pipes could have been the one that bent when they were doing the cryo testing, right?
Yes, in theory. So if they are using it to basically as part of the autogenous pressurization, but they're running it backwards. So they're taking gases out of the system. So reduce the number of pipes by just reusing the same pipes. You can now have a system that you're filling up the LOX header tank and it's got a lot of gases. It's really cold, but you ran those cold gases and maybe even some of those liquid nitrogen gas fluids through the pipe going backwards. And what you might have happen is that it pulls and contracts away from itself. So you can see like right here, it has a connector. So if you imagine this entire length decreased a good, let's say a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, this entire thing would want to pull away and you'd have a break. That's similar to what I think happened inside of the booster or the ship here the other day on the first cryo test about not a week ago Thursday. So that's when they were doing that test and they put in expansion joints. So they actually ran them through this little manhole right here. They ran the pipe in it has expansion joints, and for those of you who want to know what that looks like, it's basically just a line. Well, that's not a line. So invisible.
This is how we
okay, so it's a line. It goes up, and then it goes over, and then it goes back down, and then they actually have another one that goes up and down. So they've got 2 expansion joints, so it really can flex. It's never going to happen again. But it's these points here at the corners where it can flex, and it can move. Oh, that's really thick. It can move either of those directions.
I like the red highlight or shadow. You know, Mauricio, forgive me. Jessica was actually out there the other night, and she caught a really good picture of the expansion pipe with the 2 bends in it. Freaking phenomenal photo. That chick was in the right place at the right time. She's amazing. Not to take away from Mauricio's pictures at all, but just the timing of it. She's amazing.
There's a lot of stuff that happens all the time. I don't think anybody could be there 24/7 except the cams that are down there that are for Lab Padre and then NSF that they're down there watching for all of these little movements. And like besides photographers like Mauricio, it's going to be hard to capture all of that.
It's kind of cool too, because if we can stagger our photographers, we could get epic views, like just 24/7, almost better than the cameras, because they get the close-ups with these amazing cameras that they all have. It's pretty cool.
Mauricio definitely has the best overflight views of everybody else because nobody else does have that.
No, it was
and they're amazing.
It was ingenious, Mauricio, to have flyovers.
Yes.
What made you do that, out of curiosity?
The flyovers, they started off as just me trying to. It was gonna be my birthday. I think I told this story before. It was gonna be my birthday. I had never flown in an airplane before, so I guess it was my wife's gift to me. You know, she's like, yeah, if you want, we can book you a flight. And I decided to fly over Starbase. That was my first flight ever. That was back in 2019, I believe.
When there was no 10,000-foot restriction, correct?
Yeah, back then there wasn't a TFR. I think we were flying at about like 1,800 feet above around the site.
Yeah, I think then TFR was 5,000 feet at that time.
Yeah, in 2019, well, when I started, there was no TFR, and then they started adding the TFRs shortly after. They started with like a 2,000, 2,200 or something like that, and then it went up to like 4,000 and 5,000. At one point, it went up to 7,000. But then they lowered it back to 5,000, and then from 5,000, it went back up to 10,000. And that's where we're at right now.
There was that one time, though, that it was gone for like, what was it? It was at 10,000, and then it was gone for about 3 or 4 days, and we were hoping for a flight, and you were like, no, I could get the pilot. That would have been amazing to be able to go down to the 5,000 feet again.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but I think, I can't recall. I do recall that particular time, we just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah. Your efforts are definitely worth it every time. Like Starbase, what they're doing, and what you're doing, at least to help document it and bring that to everybody and show like the progress over time is astounding. Like they're constantly changing things, especially concrete. Like, my goodness, it's every week they're replacing that same concrete. But they are making so many strides towards this huge goal of making not just life multiplanetary. I think it's beyond just that. It's the hope. It's the dream that is the Starship program that pushes this forward. And a lot of the employees, I think, feel that same way, as well as Elon, definitely, that they are making this program so that we can have, Mars, the moon, and other planets available. But it's just like that Star Trek future that we all dream about, that this helps get us there. So thank you for that, Mauricio, on your end of making this, making all of this possible here.
And you know what else helps make everything possible? Sorry, Mauricio. Our donations. And we just got another one from Brian Alloway for 2022. Mauricio,
and viewers like you. Sorry, I was thinking about that. I was like missing a line, and viewers like you.
Mauricio, you were saying, though. Go on. Forgive me for interrupting you.
Oh, no, I was saying that that if you all can, just support all the other photographers out there, especially the ones, the live streaming ones. I mean, it is hard work. I can attest to that, and that's just because I go out there one time a week. I can imagine being out there all day or every other day. I wouldn't be able to do it. So yeah. Thanks to everybody that supports them and supports me. Thank you.
Yay! Team Space. Did it kill Thomas?
No, I'm just looking at pictures as well, going through them while we're talking, just because we've got so many to go through each week. But I like to show what we have and how amazing these pictures are. But the thing that I always come back to is those wires need to be managed, and they're going to do something with it, but what, we have no clue. This entire system technically still works here, but they just kind of cut it off, and those claws are gone and maybe never come back. I don't know.
Okay, forgive me, Thomas.
Yep.
Mauricio, you were just talking about the other wonderful creators and stuff like that. Starship Boca Chica. Maria is here in the chat. Hi, Maria.
We have Maria. Awesome.
Starship
She's
Boca
definitely,
Chica. That's Maria,
yeah,
right?
the first neighbor. Like, she literally was the first neighbor. Maria is such a great person. So she is the individual who lived right across the street. Well, actually, it was her backyard. It wasn't even across the street from the build site. And she's the one who shared her view with us through the Lab Padre stream. And we were able to watch 24/7 from basically your backyard to see all of the amazing things that are happening. And she does amazing photography. I see that she's been out there again taking photos. I've been looking at all those photos recently and going, oh my goodness, wow, these are really good zoomed in photos. And I have to go look back and see who it is, and it's Maria again, and she's back out in the field, and that's always good to see that. So
And
definitely support Maria if you can.
And she talks about how they used a picture from RGV from Mauricio back in the day in one of her early videos. So Mauricio, your stuff has been used forever, and probably will be forever.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, we've got more donations coming in. You want to go for those real quick?
Yeah, we've got a $2 donation from Friday Ray. He says, for the Apex views, which Mauricio, we are all very thankful for. Rocket Profit over here dropping money like it's rain, like it's candy. $50 for all you do, Mauricio, and for some fuel. Thank you both so much.
Wow, $50. Thank you, Matt, very much. Friday Ray and Rocket Profit, as well as Brian. Each of you donating. That's amazing. Thank you. We'll go back to some more pictures here because people love that. Let's go ahead and talk a bit about the cover here in the back cover. We can kind of cover two sites at once, actually talking about this. So the back cover, they went through and attached to the ship. I'm sorry, the booster QD. And then the system itself, originally they had some bolt holes here. Then they covered those up with some welding material. So they just added the back to it. Then they grounded it off. And then they added this plate right here, this flange. So now they have a flange that looks like it's completely welded on now. And they may have even painted. I kind of have a hard time telling. But that looks really good photo to use here. It's even better. So yeah, they've been welding this entire flange onto this piece, and so that way when they fit the back of the booster quick disconnect cover, it came together with this. So they went through and welded or tack welded this on, and then they detached the back panel from it so that it can be attached later on. It's over here at the BFC shed site. So this is what's left of what's left. It's not what's left. It's just the other side of it. So you can see where that flange material was at. So you can see that where it ended about right here and continued around and then back down. But it's the piece that bolts onto these bolts. So that way you have the entire system easily accessible. You can remove it and you can go back and forth between pulling off the lines if you need to. I know that this particular line right here has a leak on it, at least as far as the last test. They might need to remove it. This is the lock side, so it's not
still
as
has the leak. You don't think they would have fixed it by now?
I don't know if they noticed the leak or not. It was a kind of a slight leak. We did, but we've got 1,000 eyes on these things, and they have like 20 some engineers maybe. So there's things that we'll notice that they might not notice at times. But pointing it out, they might go through and test it with the next booster they put on here. So booster 7 again will come back and go through its whole test regime, and they'll probably see that it does have a leak right around here. The leak occurred when they were doing the quick disconnect movement, and it was just a slight like pinhole leak, but it's still like, how's that happen?
And the
Anyways,
next time we see Booster 7, she'll have all her Raptors on, correct?
Yeah, she's going to have all of her Raptors on, and even potentially the engine coverings as well.
Ooh.
That will be really nice, and I hope we get to see some engine gimbling action again. So we saw that on the 29 on Booster 4. I hope we get to see that again from Elon when we get Booster 7 out. That would be so amazing to see them all gimbal in the center, all 13, not just 9 engines gimbling.
It'll be interesting to see, amazing to see 33 engines static fire at the same time.
Yep. It's going to be, well, the question we still have on the static fire. Elon, there was a question from Tim Don, whether they're going to do all of the inner rings and outer rings separately or at once for all 33 engines. And then he says one at a time. And it's kind of vague because one at a time at first. And it's kind of vague. Does that mean one ring at a time or one engine at a time? And it's like, at first it could be that they just do one engine at a time. Then they do the rings. So they have, for the entire outer ring of 20 Raptors, it's one system as far as the spin start. But you should be able to control each engine individually. Otherwise, you have the equivalent of not the energy, the boron. I'm thinking of the N1, sorry. The Russian N1 that it had the engines all like turn each other off because one was failing and then the whole thing failed. They don't have that issue, so that's good. It's just you have to be able to spin start them all. You have to test every element. I think you kind of test all of that together at once. You just don't put any methane or any other things. You don't open up the valves for those systems. You just keep it closed. And so it's just starved.
Do nitrogen?
No. So you typically will just do like you'll do a cryo test maybe again, but you can do a wet dress rehearsal. So that's where you basically have methane inside. You run the whole system as if you were going to start it up, but you never actually hit the igniters or anything else like that. You just run it through the system, see how it acts for temperatures, pressures, and then you go back and then you start doing one engine at a time. So you could do like 33 all at once as a wet dress rehearsal. One of the things that I have a question on, and I think Golden Boy as well, is like, how are they going to remove methane from the environment as far as like, let's say if they get a methane buildup inside of the quick disconnect system in here, if there's a leak or whatnot, do they have a nitrogen purge for this entire cavity, which like I personally would be for? But I haven't seen any lines or anything that says, oh yeah, this just ends inside of there and it's open and it's just nitrogen. It could be. I just don't know if it's there or not.
There is a question about the flames. Mary Khan is asking, how can you explain which direction the flames will go on OLM when boosters going forward?
So I guess I'd have to pull up another photo here real quick.
Or just, yeah.
I'll just use an overview because it's easier to show from here. So the flames go in all the directions here. So the thing that happens is that they have these flame diverters down at the bottom that they go around the leg. So you don't want this area to basically have a high pressure pushing against the leg sides. So if you think about it, it's like 500,000 metric tons. No, not 500,000. It's 5 megatons of propellant and vehicle that will be lifting off, and that pressure is basically going down. Actually, it's 1.5 times more pressure going down, essentially, to offset the whole weight of the vehicle. So it has a thrust to weight ratio of 1.5. That was from the EDA interview as well. But they will be pushing against the legs. That pressure is going down, and that's where you normally would have a flame diverter in this region down here. And they, in the PEA, they say they might get a flame diverter. It might be a mistake to not have one. But in truth, it's just basically some concrete. So as long as it doesn't damage their structure, they can replace concrete day in and day out. It's just you want to reduce the amount you change it over. because you do want to have 1 hour turnaround times. You can't let it sit and wait for another, a week or two to let the concrete dry and set to get its maximum strength there. But anyways, the flames will go around this way as well. So there's going to be pressure going kind of this way, so that this will take a little bit of it as well on all sides of the integration tower. And you'll have flames, at least flames and the debris coming up this way, up against the berm, and then kind of angled up into the top end of, we call this tank over here, Tankenstein. So it's going to get a little bit more than anybody else. So these will all kind of have this like line that's or gradation pattern. So it's going to start off really light here, and up here it's going to be really like sandblasted and a bit more brown. This one will really have that line appear here, so it'll be more definitive, where you can see that it's been blasted a bit. But they should be able to take a little bit of that as the vehicle is launching here. And so that'll be a lot of fun. We've seen that happen repeatedly over at the suborbital fuel farm, and it mostly just discolors the paint. Really, it's a little bit like sandblasting.
All it does is discolor the paint, eh?
Pretty much. I mean, it launches a whole vehicle. It might melt some things on the ground that you accidentally left behind, but yeah, it's going to be amazing and spectacular.
It will be.
Any way you
Sure.
you look at it.
So Rocket Prophet has a question about the static fire. I know we talked about a static fire being a minimum of 1 to 3 seconds, right? He's asking, could we potentially see a static fire that lasts for hours?
Oh, no. Like, you could have a series of static fires. Right. So I've talked about this the other day, that at a theoretical minimum, if you were going to have static fires on the booster, you would basically could do it like once every 10 minutes. Because you need to have an engine chill, and it's good to keep your engines that you've just ignited chilled. And then you have to have a siren go off at least once at the beginning of that whole test regime. So theoretically, at a minimum, you could do 33 static fires over 5.5 hours. But otherwise, I don't expect that kind of thing would take place. It would be over a period of a week, where you'd have a static fire for each engine. If they're going to do one at a time, they could start off doing a few engines, and then they work their way up to the rings and the outer rings, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I would think that they would be really in groups of 5 for the outer rings. You could do 5 and 5, but whatever you do, you just want to keep it kind of segmented off and reduce the amount of potential issues or damage that you could cause. You want to basically keep this vehicle safe, the structure safe. So you will also reduce the amount of methane that will be in the vehicle to be basically the minimum amount. So if it does have a RUD, that, okay, yes, you had a RUD that now you have to replace some items here and there, but it's not like you have to replace the entire launch table or integration tower or something like that. So it's only about maybe 6 feet of methane in the tanks is what you'd see visibly on the outside.
Hey, Mauricio, side question. Do their road closures impact your ability to fly over?
No, not at all.
Good.
We've flown during road closures, and even after the RUDs from the first few Starships, we flew over when nobody was allowed on close to the site.
I remember those photos. Those were amazing. We learned so much from those flyover photos.
Yeah, it was strange looking at the launch site with no cars visible, or that was kind of not as exciting as, well, it wasn't exciting, but looking at the RUDs at the leftovers, that was pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we learned so much from that, and they do too.
The piping is what we picked up a lot of, right? I remember.
Yeah. And like, where is this going? Oh my gosh, that's what that is. We wondered what that was. That's where it goes. That's how it attaches, because it's all on the inside, and we didn't have any clue on the on some of those things. We would make guesses and whatnot, but once you actually see the insides laid out right in front of you, you don't know.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mauricio, in advance, or actually after the fact.
So this is actually kind of something we looked at last week that is made some progress here, is that they've actually gone through and started welding. They've been doing some welding over the past week here of the flame diverter. So we were talking about the flames earlier. This looks like the top of the flame diverter. It's in a kind of a triangle shape. So as the flames come down, it hits this and diverts to the left and the right. And then the same thing for this direction, that it goes either that way or towards us a little bit. But it goes around the column, and that's the main point. And you can actually see the old, I guess you could say the Washington Monument over here, the obelisk shape that's behind it. Like, this was the original idea, and I think they planned on using this for static fires, and then they realized we need something a bit more substantial.
Yes, as with everything here, it's a lot bigger than we anticipate.
Yeah, so it's great to see that. Oh yeah,
got it in. Sorry.
It's the ladder game. There's always like water bottles, ladders. They're the things we spot when we're going through looking at pictures, just to say I'm paying attention.
And also to one up each other.
Yeah, that's true. We do that.
Mm-hmm. It's our little competition.
It's a friendly competition, which is fun. But if it's a permanent ladder, you can only spot it once. That was the rule.
Unless you're Dave Avery, then you can spot it every time and say.
No, he did spot it. It's been there for a long time, and nobody yelled it out. So there's a lot of progress being made on the launch site.
Are the cracks gone from the wall here?
Oh, they're just hidden behind this guy right here. So
okay.
it's not really a crack. It's just
remember?
It's just a cold joint.
I remember.
It just goes to the side, left to right.
I thought I went up.
You can
too,
see,
but neither here nor there.
So there's a cold joint down at the bottom, and then or maybe where some bubbles were at, and you can see the cold joint here as well.
Mm-hmm. So
this is when they had several ports, and if I remember right, there was a static fire this day. So this is kind of where this one occurred from. So there was this weird like weight of we're waiting for the concrete, and it's not coming. Each one of these is actual form right here. So you've got the shape of the form. This is where the top of the form is, and that's why you kind of have this shape. And then you have these little parts. These were what we're holding on to the form itself. So from one side to the other, and it's got rebar in between that it was connected to. So it's just a little bit of concrete history. Concrete, the structure we build our foundations off of.
It's the fabric of our life. Oh, that's cotton. Close enough. Wow.
Yeah, they've been bringing in some helium. This is the lock side of the orbital tank farm.
Those tanks have been there for a while, though. The helium ones.
Yeah, but they do come out and replace these every once in a while. It's just been a long time since we've actually used any of it for anything big. So SpinStart, they might be using helium, which it's kind of expensive to use helium. I remember Falcon 9, they didn't like that they were using so much helium that it was, I think, was a larger part of their propellants cost. So like their RP1 or LOX, it was more expensive for the helium than it was for either of those. And so it's just kind of like, wow, that's kind of expensive here. If you're using that for your SpinStart, you'll have to have that as a COPV tank. And if you could have that as nitrogen or maybe even argon, because you just need a compressed gas. There might be other reasons to use helium specifically, but those are ones that kind of stick out to me, is that price-wise, helium is more expensive. Argon or nitrogen, they're pretty inert. Argon is a noble gas, so it is absolutely inert. Nitrogen, it can interact with some things, but it's a little more difficult, at least for what they're doing here. But anyways, the big one that we were able to kind of figure out the other day is that they are using on the booster, most likely, this is the Indian Star, you were looking at the common dome of the booster, and what did you see on that? What did you think?
Good question.
Remember this one?
No memory of what we're talking about. Forgive me.
We talked about this morning as well. Okay, so the helium bubble system that they have for
yes, on our transfer
chilling.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. So they're there's a big transfer tube that is in one of these photos, and it has holes around what looks like the opening of the mouth. It looks like a well doubler, essentially, where the mouth is. And they're holes, and we were trying to figure out what those holes could be. And this star over here thought, hey, well, of course I used the wrong gas, but that's okay. I was saying that it could be for where they do like, and I don't know if boil off is the right term, but they could be chilling their liquid in the tanks and bubbling in that other gas. At that time I said nitrogen, but I know now it's helium because I knew it all the time. I just said the wrong one. But yeah, so I was thinking it would be that.
Misnomer, yeah.
And Thomas agreed, believe it or not. I was so excited. I still am.
Well, no, I mean, it makes sense. Like, we were looking at like 5 or 6 holes at the top of below the common dome of the methane tank of the booster. And it just doesn't make sense to have holes like that unless you're going to do something with it. Are you going to pull propellant off of it? No, that doesn't make sense unless you're going to go to hot gas thrusters, which Elon says that's kind of done. And I kind of agree that ullage thrusters is the best way to get rid of your ullage gas that you want to get rid of anyways. You're going to throw it overboard. So helium bubbling is something that they do in a lot of the rockets. So
and if you want to pull that image from our research, our live comms, you can see the holes that we're referencing behind the thrust puck.
Okay, so this one's from last week. Thank you. So these are the holes. On the other side, we got a shot that we were looking at that was showing the plates. They're basically just flat plates. So it distributes the methane. I'm sorry, the helium gas into the methane tank. And the reason why you would use helium is that as it's going through, it's pulling a lot of heat from the helium. I'm sorry, the methane, the liquid methane, so that you can really densify and super chill it. And that's a really useful feature. Is what would be those holes would probably be, I think, for helium lines. You want it to be able to expand into that system, and that would be a great way to do it. Otherwise, I don't see why you would be pulling methane from separate spots like that. It just doesn't quite make sense, especially this far up. You've got the downcomer that's right here that goes all the way down to the thrust puck of the booster. So that's where you distribute into the manifold all of the 33 engines. That's where they get all of their fuel from here. So if they're adding more pipes for methane going down, that's more weight, doesn't make sense, and just kind of is backwards. But this one, for helium, that makes a lot more sense. So if you have a line that will be used for connecting in helium and bubbling that helium through, I love that idea. It works out so well.
I'm gonna go buy a lotto ticket because Thomas agreed with me.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where we constantly have questions and debates about how these things work, what they are for. And that one to me is the strongest leader of the options. There might be something that comes up later and it's like, oh wait, yeah, that's absolutely what it is. It's not any of these things. It's this other mundane thing. But helium bubbling is so much cooler. I like that idea.
I'm coming for you. Sorry, had to just say that because I got one. I got one.
So is there any other questions that people would like to go through and ask? Now is definitely a time. Who do we have as far as questions right now?
So Kite asked, do you have enough fresh or desalinated water on site now? Will they ever get a water pipeline installed?
Okay, so it's like $1 million to $2 million per mile for a pipe. So if they're, let's say, doing a installation of some other pipe, let's call it methane or sewage or whatever it might be, that if they were going to install one, they would install many because it's going to be a lot less expensive to do it then, because you have to do the trenching and actually lay the pipe and everything else. So far, it doesn't look like there's any plans to do any piping. If there is going to be any, it's going to be existing pipe work. So let's say if they ever decide to get methane to Sanchez as a gas, they would buy it from a distributor, bring it to the site through existing methane pipes. There's fiber optics that are run through it, but you can run methane through a pipe that still has other things inside. You just have to make sure you've got the correct pass-throughs and everything else. This is something that we've talked about ages ago, but it's still, again, not a pipe system that we run. It seems like they're going to always be water trucks unless they get a desalination plant going. So that's where they will use groundwater that's brackish, which means it has a lot of salts in it. And you can't really use that as drinking water, but you could use like reverse osmosis. And that's something that they've talked about. We've seen other systems where it was just the potable water that they would run reverse osmosis on. So being able to use that for your drinking water or sanitary cooking or other things is very useful for this site. So I hope that they get to that point where they can either use reverse osmosis from water from the Rio Grande or water wells on site or something along those lines. It'd also be a good practice for the future when they do what's called the Sabatier process. On Mars, they need to take water, which has, or water ice, which has a lot of salts in it. These would be chlorates that are very toxic and you can't really do much with, but using that same type of system, so either reverse osmosis or another system, you can go through, remove the salts, and get good clean water for your reverse osmosis process, and then eventually use that same kind of water directly for the people who are going to be living on Mars. That's going to happen one of these days, and might as well use the same systems for both. Whatever the most efficient system is, that's going to be the one you choose.
Mauricio, was there anything you wanted to bring up while we still have a couple of minutes?
I guess I want to thank everybody that tuned in today, and I appreciate the support. And what else? And that's pretty much it. I mean, aside from the fact that now we have a new name for the Starbase, so there's that.
What is the new name?
Starbase Weekly.
Woohoo! I know deep dives.
That was,
Everybody's all upset about deep dives. Sorry, Astro Joe, but I'm a Starbase Weekly kind of girl.
Yeah, Starbase Weekly is at least simple to say, and I can remember that one. It was before. It was what was it before? Photography review, RGV photography review, right?
Yeah. It was RGV Starbase Photography Review. Is or was, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's Starbase Weekly.
They pointed out that there's a new water treatment plant pulling from Rio Grande at Macy's in the Macy's pics.
I haven't seen any of the direct pipes on that. I have to check to see if we have any flyover pics, maybe from last week. If anybody wants to grab those before we jump out, because we've got only a couple of minutes here, but I would suggest any questions. Now's the time. Air those questions out. We can go through them.
Well, we have
use
one
exclamation
more for
mark. Question.
We also have a donation from 55 Chevy Guy. Thank you, very generous, sir, Steve, with a $20 donation. And he says, if not discussed yet, in EA video number 2, Elon mentioned concern for the weight of the gas in the propellant tanks at reentry. I never thought about the weight of the gas. Can you discuss?
Yeah, so the weight of the gas. So you have everything in the vehicle itself will have a amount of momentum when it's coming down. So there's going to be weight there as well. If you, let's say, picked up the vehicle when it lands, after it's landed, it's going to be weighing about 250 metric tons plus or minus. And that's what Elon was saying. So that momentum of the gases inside, you need the gases to help keep the vehicle completely expanded into a shape that you want it to be in. As it's landing, it needs that pressurization. But at the same time, you don't want too much additional gases. You need to get rid of some of that. So you're going to be replacing gases. It's just this point where at a theoretical best, your engines turn off when it has just like no liquids left, or just barely, like it's just barely covered in liquids and it hasn't pulled any gases inside. That's not where you typically end up. You typically end up a little bit of propellants on each tank, just a little bit, and it's just the smallest amounts. That's where you would practically like to be. But right now, let's say for Falcon 9, there's just there's a bit of that ullage that we talked about, but there's also the fluids inside. They've got extra blocks, for instance. So they might move the common dome up or down on the booster and the Starship to help adjust that. And so when they are in space, for instance, for the booster, they will use the ullage thrusters. So they are removing that extra gas that they don't need, and they're able to move around. And then they dump the rest anyways. They always just dump the rest of the stuff that they don't need, and then they land on the header tanks. So for the methane side, it is basically that large downcomer, or what was it? What's the SpaceX name for it that's on the label?
Transfer tube.
Transfer tube, yeah. So it'll either be a transfer tube or that downcomer. It's basically just a large pipe, but it's so long that it basically acts as a header tank. You don't need to add anything more. And if you do, it's just going to be, okay, you can seal it off a bit on one end temporarily. That might be the most you ever would do. But otherwise, it's pretty much a header tank. It'll keep everything in there as a fluid. Is there any other parts to that?
Over time. There's one more question.
Sure.
Wolf21 asks, do you know if they already use their own LN2 locks from Sanchez site? And if yes, if that covers their needs, or if they'll still need deliveries for those two liquid gases, from outside vendors?
So yes, they will continue to use outside vendors, even if they are produced in their own LN2 and locks. And yes, they are producing their own LN2 at this point. We've seen tanker trucks go over there and then go over to the launch pad. So they've been using their own LN2 every once in a while. It looks like it's frequently inactive, or it's not producing as much. I think that's something that they're going to be doing once Magic Valley Energy LLC comes in and installs their lines. So we have full power to not just Sanchez, but the build site and launch site. All of that's going to happen very quickly. So it's going to be pretty much the entire thing will be energized at once, pretty much. However, it's just they have accessed that in the past a couple of times. It hasn't been very frequent as far as I noticed. Olmo is somebody who's been tracking that, as well as Anthony.
And Lolo
They've
Matico.
been Lolo-Matic. I forgot about them. I haven't seen them too much around in the areas I've been in, so I forgot about that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, they've counted that it's that on that side. They've counted like the methane, and look at how many times they've got locks and nitrogen deliveries. So they've been really keeping a good track of that, and I think they're going to be posting charts again, hopefully soon, to show like how much has been there. I think it was it 46, the last number?
47 methane trains.
7 for methane.
Mm-hmm. That was a day ago.
Yeah, and I don't think we have any methane yet, but
there was
regardless,
one methane truck came yesterday after the numbers were counted. In any case,
it's a lot. Like they're constantly getting more and more. But they had a delivery of, I think it was just going to be nitrogen the other day after the testing of the cryo test for the Starship, and we went through and watched the playback video. I've grabbed the entire clip of afterwards, because they kind of just kept doing this weird thing where they would have people on site, then off site, and then on site again and off site. And what it really appears is that they had a leak of some sort, meaning that they either had too much oxygen on site or not enough oxygen. So if they had been dumping a lot of nitrogen, we saw that the valve for the launch table was left open. I can actually jump back again real quick for that guy. But it was, just kind of just kept going for quite a while after the test. The valve that's over here to the right. It's actually kind of just beyond, I think, this area. But anyways, it's just over here that it just constantly just goes and goes and goes, and it just didn't stop. And so as far as a safety measure, it looks like they kept the site evacuated. They didn't even have the security personnel on site. And at one point, a trucker came along, and the security guy, who was later on, waved him down and said, the site's not safe or something. We'll need to have you stay away from the site just in case. But yeah, they go through and use oxygen monitors, gas monitors to make sure everything is safe. And that's a really good work ethic that SpaceX specifically goes through and make sure that they are keeping their workers safe, even if it's just a little bit low. They still will say, "Yeah, well, we'll pull out and we'll come back to this later after it vents some more and fixes itself, or the entire valve system closes." Sometimes it has a sticky valve, and that's always a problem.
But mind you, this is all speculation. We don't exactly know that there was anything like that. We know that it was closed. We know that people were turned away. I'd like to think that maybe it wasn't that, because we just got approved potentially for that PEA stuff. So we want it only to go up from here.
Yeah, so I think Animal had the other theory as well, that it was basically additional testing.
Yeah.
So I do think they were doing parallel testing earlier in the test regime, but it was just odd that they would send people back to the work site and then pull them back. But the rest of the area was mostly safe. It's just it seemed like around the launch table, and that area was definitely suspect, because they had people go in and they come right back out and then they left. So it was just one of those things where there's a lot of speculation and understanding, but if it is something as a safety issue, they did the right thing. So it was good to see.
Yeah. And on that note, Mauricio, do you want to start us off with our goodbyes? Or not? I'll start off. There you go.
I'm still here. I'm still here. Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. But yes, thank you everybody for joining, and thank you for the support. And Instar, you're next.
I am. Everybody, think good thoughts about flyovers. I want a double flyover week, so we got to think really good thoughts, because I know the plane is going through maintenance. So good thoughts. Come on, double flyover. Thank you guys for joining us, and hope you guys can join us again next week. Thomas?
Main stage cut off. Separation confirmed. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. And thank you for the $25 donation.